what that is? Discipline. Selfish.
No joke. We're legitimate.
Let's fucking do this. Then do it. Do it 100%, because I'm trying to.
We recognize that we are limitless.
You gotta be a champion to become a champion, right? Winning is a habit because we create habits that lead to good execution and success.
Welcome to the Coaches Show, episode 7. We hope you had a safe and joyful holiday. We have an awesome show lined up for you today from San Diego Dynasty, co-host of Play the Game podcast, coach of divisional teams New York Wrecking Crew, the Las Vegas Misfits, or Golden Misfits if I recall, Team USA U19. Man, that's a mouthful, man. Marcello Margott. Okay. Also on the show, Anthony Vitale will join us as well to talk about BKI, the Paintball Combine, and Team USA Paintball. Let's get into it.
Man, I feel like there could have been about 15 other tags as we're introducing Marcello, right? Like most recent World Cup MVP, 4-time world champ. Like it just seems like his tags could go. It's like when Tiger Woods steps up to the first tee box and they introduce him and everybody's standing around like twirling their thumbs and like, okay, like get it over with, right? Like we get it. He's the best. So,
right.
So it's, we when we started this show, we really wanted to have we wanted to highlight coaches, right? And we've kind of started with all these professional coaches, and SK brought up on his show, talked about Marcello and how kind of their relationship dynamic had changed as Marcello has been coaching some of these teams. And you and I started talking about, well, wouldn't it be cool to have Marcello come on, kind of describe how that has changed him as a player, where now he has a better understanding of what we do as a coach and how kind of critical those, 45 to 25 seconds are that we're trying to make decisions. So I'm really excited to get into that with him. And also like his involvement with BKI, his involvement with the Combine, his involvement with Team USA, it just all kind of melded together to get Anthony in to talk about it. So really excited about today's show.
Let's do it. Let's get let's go.
Yeah, before we jump in, let's bring Marcello in and we can kind of get his opinion on some of the recent player moves.
Oh, that's right. That's a great idea.
How's it going, fellas? My goodness, how cool to sit in the green room and hear you guys say all those nice things about me. Usually people are saying the opposite kind of things, So you guys
what made an example of some of the opposite? Like he's not a champion.
Too defensive, too slow, doesn't leave the back center, all the things. Things.
Yeah, that's right.
Who says that?
Yeah, who does say that?
I think in Chicago, I saw you in the snake multiple times. Like you're
well, thank you.
I think you're playing that role maybe better than anybody else for sure. So
appreciate it.
I don't know the hip shot on the last guy. I don't know. From a technique perspective, I was like, well, I'll give him a 7.
Yeah, the hip shot has actually been making a huge resurgence. So I think there's a lot of technique and validity to it, actually. So I don't know. We're gonna see in 2024, maybe more people are gonna start doing the hip shot.
Let's do
All
it.
I know is I have now seen Jacob shooting out of like above the tower. I think he is moving the gun and laying down behind back center at World Cup. Like prone. It was like the weirdest thing. But I was like, whatever.
Jason Edwards?
Jason. Yeah.
Jason. Yeah.
Edwards.
Oh man. Yeah. He goes all out. He fully sells out on, but it's a game of angles. So why not? Right. Like we have this idea of what perfect, quote unquote, perfect fundamental paintball should look like. But once you do master that, and Jason's obviously a master of that, has been for many years,
totally.
It's okay to kind of manipulate things to give yourself a little bit better of an angle. I mean, I do it with off the break shooting all the time. There's things that, I teach in my clinics and with the teams that I coach that I'm like, this is absolutely how you do it over and over. And then they pull up a frame of me and they go, huh? And I'm like, well, let me explain. Like the layout was a little different this way. Right. And so here's why I did that. Not really supposed to do it that way. Well, in this scenario, you were, and here's why. But it's going to take you a long time to understand that. So let's do it the right way first, and then learn how to, or when to kind of break those rules, you know?
That's right.
And we wanted
Adaptability and creativity.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
We certainly want to dig into that stuff here in just a little bit, because I do think what you just said is really important to talk about, to make sure players understand, like, just because you see it on the pro field doesn't mean you should try to do it.
Totally.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So before we jump into those things, let's talk really quickly about some of the player moves that have happened over the last few days. So we have, and by the time the show airs, it will be a little bit old, but still, I think your perspective on this is really important. So Zach Geiger, formerly of NRG, announced his free agency today. And we know a lot of chaos has happened with NRG, you know, selling the spot to Blast Camp. And then I keep hearing merge with the Bears, but I keep hearing there's only 2 players going from
it's
NRG.
just Alan's kids, I thought. Okay.
So we don't like to talk too much about conjecture, everybody I ask is like, I get different answers. So it's you know, like, even when you talk to Alan, like, I think Alan said 3, but then when I talked to the Bears guys, they said 2.
Oh,
so I'm like,
they're still sorting out the details.
There's still some confusion here. There's still some confusion here. So AC Diesel picks up Cody Mikowski.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
I mean, I think it's a huge move. You know, you guys have a lot of guys now, though, so I'm curious to see what you guys do with the roster. But from a player perspective, I think 2 things. I think Diesel could have kept the same team and done way better this next year. It was strange how many things didn't go that team's way. It was strange. You know, it's like the only way to put it.
Geiger. I think Geiger is a very smart and aggressive 2, and will, you know, I think whoever picks him up is gonna get a new element that, you know, if you need an aggressive smart 2, well, there you go. What was the other one? Was it there was another energy announcement, wasn't there?
Yeah, Kyle Bowen has signed with Baltimore Revo.
Okay. Revo's signing some people now.
I do want to talk about Cody, though. So one of the things I saw when I watched all their film from last year was it looked like the edge guys got in situations where they had to do things instead of were getting to do things. And so from my perspective, getting Cody gives them an opportunity that when they can and when they want, now they can do those things a little more freely without having to worry about who's going to be here to close the game.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and that created a lot of penalties and, you know, some of those things that, you know, you mentioned things just not going their way. You know, I think sometimes a lot of times they kind of brought those things on themselves, right? By putting themselves down points and then, you know, trying to force things, get a little selfish, those kind of things. So
there was also, if you don't mind, it was like misfortune too. You know, when Mike came in, they had their best performance in Philly. They'd lose a 1-point game to Heat, who was playing fantastic. Who knows if they win that game, they go on, that maybe they make it to the finals, right? And then J-Rab gets hurt the next event, so they're down him in Chicago, and they're actually still looking really good. It's a perfect snake for him, but then Mouse gets hurt. So it doesn't really tell the true story of that team, you know, and people kind of look at it as this like mega failure. And it's like, things are like this close each time of being a completely different story. And we talk about it on our team, and I'm hypercritical of all of our wins. I look back and I'm like, yeah, but we should have lost this event, and we should have lost that event, and we shouldn't have made the semifinals in that one. You know, like there's so many things that you can look back on, and these games, especially on Sunday, are so close. One or two things go a certain direction and it changes the entire story. So you know, if I was in your shoes looking at that, that's what I would be expressing to my guys is, hey, we're like actually this close. It's not as bad as it appeared. And, you know, we're right there. So let's fix a few things and work on a few things here and have a much better year.
I mean, you basically just said what our very first team meeting is going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, we don't have to burn the boats.
Totally.
I mean, we're right there.
Absolutely.
It's just a couple of small errors, a couple little selfish things. And of course, and you mentioned this in the beginning, you know, we're going to have to make a couple of changes to the roster because we have a lot of bodies, right?
Right.
So I do think that was another problem they had last year was there were just too many guys on the team. Mm-hmm. Like you've got to put people in a position where they can get into some tempo and rhythm and, but then also not be worn out, you know, when you get deep on Sunday. So it's a weird balance, as you know.
It is.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So, and the other thing, you being uber critical, that's why you're a champion.
Yeah.
That's why you're a champion.
That's
like
that's that whole learning thing that we were talking about last show.
Yeah. If you walk away from a win and you're like, okay, we're good, moving on, that's not good.
That's
you know,
not good.
if you don't go back and critically break down everything that happened and still find the motivation that you need to still do the work, you're not going to be on top very long. Right.
I have this theory that I've said for a long time, and I wholeheartedly believe in it. Until you get to a point to where you're playing 5-man X-ball, you know, the format we play, until you get to the point to where you could pull up off the gate as soon as the buzzer sounds and shoot 5 paintballs and shoot 5 people in a row, every point, there's work to be done. You know, once you if you ever reach that point and you do it every time, then all right, cool, hang it up. You know, it's over. But until then, there's room for improvement.
That's right. We use that on the Canes. We talk about it's a continuous improvement.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter as long as the needle is moving in the positive direction. That's where the needle needs to go. If the needle is staying still, we're doing something wrong. If the needle is moving in the opposite direction, we're doing something really wrong. So we need to adjust it immediately. So the fact that you are critical, that you go back and you look at these opportunities, I think that's what makes champions. I agree with Ryan 100%.
So Kyle Bowen signs with Baltimore Revo. I don't even know what the roster looks like at this point. They're making so many changes, and it appears they're just picking up tons of players.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems more like a depth piece than anything. I don't see him breaking into the starting 5, especially with them adding Frank back. You know, Frank's a dynamite player. So it's probably more of a practice piece and a depth piece, which is important. There is also, and again, not trying to throw we were hearing rumors all offseason that a couple of the guys were going to go to the Ironman, but I don't think that that's happening. Maybe one of those moves, like, I don't know, maybe they thought it was going to happen, but I don't see it happening.
We did get confirmation that's
you did. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So it seems like a depth piece, right? Which is good. You know, you want depth. It's great for practice. And it keeps your starters kind of motivated. You know, you have somebody that could take play time from you. But I don't, again, just with the roster they have and, you know, how well they did at World Cup, 4th place. You know, you add Frank, who can instantly be a starter. I don't know how much playtime he's going to get, but we'll see.
I think Kyle had the best World Cup maybe of any of the Snake guys. I mean, he played fantastic. You know, I was going back and watching film. You know, I went back and watched every game that was played. He played exceptionally well. Maybe Danny Schonauer was a little, you know, more creative than him, but he had a very solid World Cup. But I do think that was an interesting Snake.
Yeah, it was. And I didn't watch most of, I didn't go back and watch any of the games. I watched every single game while we're there, but it's hard for me to remember his performance other than I do remember a few times seeing him do well on the Snake side, but to me, it's more circumstantial rather than like actually earning the kills, if that makes sense. You know, like sometimes players just aren't looking your way and you get into a good spot and you produce like you should, right?
Yeah.
You could drop the ball in those positions, but my question is he the type of player that can consistently earn that? Like if his team's down bodies, is he making those good moves, or is it because, you know, he ends up the play calls to where he goes to the snake on the break and the other team's not in there with him, you know? And I'm asking because I don't remember their games. You know, we were never in a position to play them, so I wasn't hypercritical of them. But yeah, you know, that's kind of what I look for when I'm looking at players too, is like a player could kind of go off on the snake side, but you're like, well, yeah, I mean, you're 2 shot the runner off the break. You made it on the break. You did what you're supposed to. You crawled down and then you had 3 backs, you know, like excellent. You got 3 kills. Yeah, you're supposed to, you know. Right. Now it's like when you both go to the snake insert bunker and you have to win a gunfight, you have to communicate, you have to put your mirror in and then also wrap and put the back center in and beat your opponent to the snake, or they beat you to the snake. You have to make a good counter, you know, like that's the type of stuff that impresses me, you know. And I'm just not so sure that he's done a lot of that I've recognized, but I could be wrong. I'll go back and watch too. If you're saying you think he was like the best snake player at Cup, that's huge. So
he was, I think he had maybe the best all around event. Yeah. Go back and watch some of the NRG matches. There's a couple of times in 5-on-5s. He goes down and does real work, right? And did it the right way, where he didn't go right to that, you know, small cake and come up and try to shoot a bunch of people. He played around in there, got really creative, went over to the mini win, and then came back to the cake. Like, did it smart, baited guys to shooting the wide, came up in the next spot, shot a couple people. Okay. Like he did it well. He did it well. I was impressed.
Yeah. Maybe he will get some starting time then.
We'll see, right? Hey. It's got to earn it. Got to earn it.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about your coaching stuff. So we'll start kind of with the combine and BKI. So how did you get involved with BKI and the combine?
Well, Anthony and Lori have been amazing ambassadors of the sport for a long time. I've heard about the combine for what feels like 15, 20 years. You know, they used to always host it at their indoor field in Boston. It was kind of this fun event that some of the top pros would do, you know, Ryan Greenspan, Nikki Cuba. You know, it was like a cool, fun thing that I'd always heard about, never gone to, never participated in. And I think the first time that I was invited to teach at one of the combines was maybe 2015. It was like when they were doing the Winter Classic thing. And so it was done in Florida. I believe that was the first time. Sorry if I got that wrong. Yeah, I know maybe he can come in and he can correct it, but it's been a while now. I've been working with them for 7-8 years, you know? And I just really love the mission. I love everything that they're putting into the game. You know, if we want to be a legitimate sport, we need these types of platforms for players to be able to come showcase their skills, their abilities, and prove themselves. So to have a space that you can come and get graded and scored and have your information kept in an actual database, and a place where, you know, if you come, there's professional players there, there's coaches, you're able to get recognized, right? Because we all know how difficult that can be in the sport. If you're a kid from, you know, a small area in Wisconsin, it can be really difficult, no matter how good you are, to showcase your skills to anybody unless you travel, you know, unless you have a platform or a space to go and do that. So from day one, I was always a huge believer in the mission of the combine and the goals of what it was supposed to be. And so I think, you know, it's the same with everybody, all the pro players that are involved in the combine, and obviously, you know, Anthony and Lori. The mission is really valuable. It's really important. It's something we all care about. So it's been a great thing to be a part of. We've been able to discover so many amazing players, truly, like players that all deserve opportunities on teams. And many of them have gotten opportunities on teams just was 2006. I mean, I think YouTube was around, but there was definitely no paintball content on there about, you know, how to snap shoot, you know, breaking down film and stuff like that. So there is this massive database that if you want, you can log in, you can sign up, and you can download yourself with tremendous amounts of information that's going to help you become a better player, you know? So just really all in on it. I think it's an amazing opportunity for people, and I'm thankful to be part of it.
Yeah, I have got to watch you kind of grow up in this. I was coaching X Factor in 2007 when you were playing on the Ironman.
Yeah.
And I felt like the tank was bigger than your waist.
It certainly felt like that for me too.
Yeah. Well, that's a great segue. Let's bring Anthony in.
Awesome.
Hey guys, I just realized I missed the memo on the hat, but
and that's the Italian Christmas hat anyway, so we're good. You know, it's
That's right.
the holiday. Yeah,
you got to have the scally.
gotta have.
I've got a scally right behind that door behind me.
There you go. Ryan Fields left out, I think, is the only non-Italian.
Not Italian. Yeah,
That's okay. I'm good.
it's okay.
Yeah. I'm kind of used to being unliked. It's fine.
Hey, whoa.
Unliked.
Jeez.
Wait a minute.
So Anthony, how did the combine come about?
Like, I'm not the greatest at time frame, but it was 20 plus years ago when we decided we were losing some players in our local series, and we wanted to put team captains together with players that were looking to get on teams. And we just emulated the NFL Combine one year. I think we had Greg Hastings come out the very first year that we did it in Boston. And we had a lot of the New England Hurricanes, the pro 7-man team that were playing MPLs at the time, helping us as well. And, we had the little pennies on their back then, and they would go out there and run them through some drills. And we'd have local captains out there with their pads of paper and just kind of looking at players and trying to pick them up and fill their team. So the next year they could have a team to stay together, or sometimes new teams were just forming from all those players getting together and networking.
Okay. Did you say pennies on their backs?
Pennies.
Yeah. Like a penny?
Like a penny.
Like a penny. It's my accent, but it's
No. Like a coin, right?
No, they'd have like a number on their back, like a marathon runner.
Pinned number. Got it.
Oh, man.
All right.
I love you.
I was just trying to figure out what that was.
It's a Boston thing.
It must be.
Marcello knew what I was talking about.
Got it. So now that you've got 20 years of experience doing the combine, now, like, what is the goal? So back then you were trying to give players an opportunity to get on teams, to fill out rosters for your league. So now what is the goal for the combine?
Marcello referred to it, I think it was in 2015-16 when we started to really look nationally for the combine, and we started to really try to get players across the country involved, as well as coaches and scouts from across the country, to actually look at some of these players that wanted to get recognized on a national level. And I think we've done that pretty well. And then in 2019, when Team USA kind of got brought to us, we kind of integrated the Team USA program into the combine.
Okay. So the combine now, that's how you fill out the rosters for Team USA.
For U16 and U19, that's how you get your invite to the actual Team USA tryout. The other three teams, the women's, the men's, and the masters, now are all being really just fulfilled through professional leagues.
Okay. So while players and Marcello kind of mentioned this as well, like while the players are there trying out, do other like coaches and other teams that aren't necessarily participating in the combine, do they come and watch?
We really try to work with the local field that's hosting the event to try to have some divisional scouts as divisional coaches there that, could potentially be looking at some players as well. Definitely part of what we intended for the combine to be. Yes.
That's awesome. So if a player shows up there, like how many players do you normally have?
At these, larger regional combines, we max out at 72. When we had some of the real big national combines, we maxed at 120. And then the local combines, we try to be more like 24 to 40. It's depending on how many fields you can run, how many professors that are there that can actually run it efficiently. I know Thomas Taylor, for instance, he does one locally where he just runs like 20 players because it's only him doing it. He's been at a combine before. He's coming to the combine in Texas. So he has some familiarity with running the drills correctly. So we allow him to kind of like franchise and run a local one, and he runs that at his field at Impact.
Okay. But the major ones, like the next one that you have is in San Antonio at X Factor Paintball.
Correct.
And what's the date?
February 3rd and 4th.
Okay. February 3rd and 4th, X Factor Paintball Park. And who will be the professors there?
Oh, you're definitely putting me on the spot. We have a lot this year. We have 8. So we have our 6 BKI professors, as well as Thomas Taylor and Kyle Berry coming. So Marcello, Ryan, Tyler, Nick, and Kyle.
Wow. Where do people sign up?
Paintballcombine.com right now. I think there's less than 20 spots available.
You guys are on it.
Yeah, I was going to say Johnny on the spot.
That production quality, yo. All right. Woo. Oh, a round of applause right there.
Greatly appreciate it. But yes, paintballcombine.com. If the deadline to get your name in on the back of the jerseys is December 22nd, so the majority of the players are going to get their names on the back for sure. So December 22nd is that deadline. Please, paintballcombine.com. And we're looking really good for Texas. Texas obviously is a hotbed right now for pro teams, for players. So we're real excited to go to Texas this year. We've been on the West Coast the last 3 years.
What if a professional coach showed up just to watch?
We expect that. I think Ryan Brand's going to be there. I know Grayson's making an appearance for the 10-year anniversary of BKI. So, yeah, we got a lot going on.
I'll be there.
Ryan will be there. There we go.
I'm going to come watch. Mostly because I want to be able to we want to be able to do some things that we can share with people here on the show too about how to run an appropriate tryout. Is that material that you have right now, like on BKI? Is there any material on there for team development, coaching, that kind of thing? Or is it mostly driven toward the player?
Rusty did a really good masterclass on coaching, but I would love to have either one of you guys come on board and help bring some more knowledge and a different perspective for coaching. We always say, coaching's like teaching a golf swing. There's lots of different ways to do it. And Laurie preaches this as well. Some people are visual learners. Some people learn better by reading, and some people like the X's and O's of it. So if you can attack learning and teaching from several different angles, that's when you can really get efficient at it as well as effective.
Yeah, agreed. I
awesome.
think any coach worth his salt learns how his players learn, understands how his players learns, as opposed to making them learn how he coaches. So I think that's important. This is fantastic. This is incredible information. So real quick, I want to shift to Marcello. What are your responsibilities with Team USA and U9, like coaching that aspect of it? And how does Anthony and you work together on making all that happen?
So Anthony has been fantastic throughout this entire process and actually has a really great knowledge of the game. So it's awesome to kind of ping pong ideas back and forth. So it starts at the Combine. Combine is where we first get a look at players that we want to invite to the tryout. And a lot of the conversations are between Anthony and myself of, certain players that he might know a little more about that I don't outside of what I've just seen at the Combine, right? And same thing with me. There might be players there that I know more about. And so we get to a point where we decide, we want to bring 25 kids to the tryout. Bring them to the tryout in Boston. It's a 3-day full. Actually, the tryout's not 3 days. That's 2 days. Right, Ant? We're doing 2 days this year.
Yeah, tryout's 2 days. Yep.
2 days where we get to structure a practice weekend where I want to look for fundamentals are really easy to notice. You can kind of point that out pretty quickly. But how are players processing the game, right? And then not only how are they processing the game, once I start giving them instruction, how are they dealing with that? Are they able to, deliver things that we're, the concepts that we're trying to go through, or like the intention of a game plan. So all of these kind of things get taken into account. And Anthony gives really good feedback, but he's really given me kind of full reins on it. I think at the end of the day, I probably have the final say on what players actually make the team. And that's an interesting thing about coaching too. And I talk about it all the time. There could be, two right individuals. Both of you are right in your concepts or your game plan or what you want to do. But if the team is split on who to follow, then it doesn't quite work. You kind of need that one. You need one person to take control, right? So I've told Ant, like, hey, if I'm doing this, then I want control of like the players that are actually going to be on the team, because those are the tools that I envision using in certain scenarios. And when I'm building a team, I'm looking for everything, right? Because I like to be really dynamic in our play calling. So I need players that can be really versatile, players that are smart. Intelligence is really important to me. Being able to talk to players about the game is a huge part of my, hey guys, I'm so sorry. I'm getting this like weird feedback. I don't know if you are too, but it's
something as well.
Yeah.
Anthony,
Yeah,
I think it might be on
phone.
your end.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Do you have anything else kind of connected?
Or it could be a case on the phone, like where the speaker is, it will make the thing vibrate a little bit.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, that seems much better. Sorry, Ant.
No.
Yeah, sometimes if there's like sitting on a table. Yeah.
Okay. Much better.
Thank you.
But no, so I'm looking for pieces that are going to complement one another. It's not necessarily the 10 best players, actually. Sometimes it's like a player that might individually be better than another player, just doesn't quite fit into the team that I'm trying to build. And that's a tough situation to be in sometimes. It's like, well, yeah, maybe you're a better player than, the 9th player we picked, but you just don't fit into what we're building here. Right. And that's, I think every team and every coach should really look at it that way, because a team should be filled with players that complement one another. You need players that can do different things, not all the same thing. You need players that also have a good understanding of the game. So, in like all the tryouts and the practice, I'm having conversations with all the kids and just trying to like get a feeling for how they view the game and how they understand the game. Effort is a really big thing that Anthony and I both look at. And I think most importantly, we address this at the start of the whole tryout, is attitude. Neither one of us are gonna deal with any sort of attitude on Team USA. One, it's a tremendous honor to play for Team USA. In my career, there's been a lot of, amazing wins, and my time with Team USA as a competitor before coaching the kids is some of my greatest accomplishments, in my opinion. It's some of the victories that I hold dearest to my heart. Like, you go overseas and you compete in a foreign country where nobody is rooting for you. Everybody is rooting against you. And it was always such a special experience being around the other top pros in the league, that when you're in the US, you're like mortal enemies, but when you're over there, there's something that brings you together, and it's you're fighting for the honor of the United States. Like, it's a tremendous honor. And so we really express that in the start of the camp. And I don't care how good you are. If you have a bad attitude and you're not a good teammate, Anthony and I were like, there's no chance. You're just, on to the next. You're not going to be around. Because at the end of the day, it's probably going to hurt the team, actually, and so it doesn't matter how good you are. If you have a bad attitude and you're not coachable, you're not going to help us win. Period.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is, and there's been so many amazing kids that have come through these tryouts and this the combine, that their attitudes are phenomenal. It's amazing. There's so many kids that are so interested and so willing to be coached, and go through this process. It makes it really hard for us, but that's what we're looking for, and I think it's the same thing in the pro division. Again, it's like you could be the best player. And this is something, when I was younger, my attitude was not great. I still struggle sometimes. It's like, okay, kind of calm down. But attitude is so important. It is such a crucial part of being a good player, or a good teammate, or winning. The difference between winning and losing. If you have a player that just consistently loses their cool, but they're your best player, you're gonna have to sit them. You know, you're like, you can't be on the field right now because you're putting yourself above the team and above the situation. So we always address that, make sure that's never an issue. Luckily, it hasn't really been. And the process is brutal. It's tough because there's so many kids that really deserve a spot. You know, you want to give it to them, but we're taking 10, you know, or we're taking 12, and there was 25 of you at the tryout. And so there's some hard phone calls that have to be made. And, you know, it's a long, grueling process, but you know, I think so far in the past couple of years, we've made the right decisions and, you know, made some tough calls, but the team has done pretty well.
Yeah, I got to spend a little time with the guys this year in Drew, and they are really fantastic young men, for sure.
Absolutely.
So, like, number one, they're good humans, right?
Yes.
So I tell people all the time, like, hey, you might be a pretty good player, but if you're a fantastic human, we can probably help you with the rest.
Yeah, well, you know, it's like that old saying, how you do anything is how you do everything, right?
Yep.
So with the New York Wrecking Crew and with the Misfits and definitely with Team USA, that is a massive, and with Dynasty, actually, it's a huge criteria to play on Dynasty is, are you a good human? Like, do we want to room with you? Are you somebody that we're going to care about? Because I think that's important. You know, if you're somebody that goes about your everyday business in the right manner, then I think you can become great at whatever it is you set your mind to. So that is certainly a massive criterion in all of the teams that I coach as well. Is like, I'm not going to have some punk on the team. I don't care if you're good. I'm going to make another kid who has a better heart and is a better teammate. I'm going to make him way better than you, you know, and you're going to get left in the dust, period. So that's you know, I love that you said that. Yeah. You know, good humans. That's 100% it. I think you can do a lot with that.
I've written 7 blogs on the topic, actually, about tryouts and about being a good teammate and these different things that go into a good culture, not just a good culture, but a winning culture. So
absolutely,
those are elements that have to be there. And when I used to teach clinics, one of the things I would ask, because these teams would be like, hey, we're not doing well. What do you think the issue is? What's the one thing? And I'm like, well, there's no magic bullet, but raise your hand and don't throw any names out, but raise your hand if when someone's on the field with you, you don't trust them. And if anyone raises their hand, I'm like, there's your problem. And that hasn't been squashed. So a trust issue is major. So these are types of things. To hear you say all this stuff is fantastic, especially to hear you say this about Team USA, which, by the way, huge fan. If I can help Team USA in any way, I would love to be involved in that somehow, which brings us actually to an excellent question that Ryan was actually talking to me about. And I think we need to get this out there for Anthony. How can the paintball community help USA Paintball?
I would love for them to find it necessary to get their really good players, like we just talked about. It's that full package player, the one that has a good attitude, that's coachable, that has the talent, the drive, the passion, and get them to a combine, get them to a BKI clinic in front of some of the professors so somebody can vouch for them. And we can get them noticed and get them to be part of the process. I feel like the Team USA organization does have several advantages over a lot of the other countries. We have the greatest coaches. We have, you know, the greatest player base for players. And we just need to get them in. Some people don't know about the combine still. You know, they'll talk to me about Team USA 2 weeks before the event, and they don't understand that it's a full year process at a minimum. We have some players that are trying out that Marcello and I are looking at and saying he'll be ready next year, and then that's the process. So for that particular player, it's a minimum of a 2-year process, and some of our players have been with us for 4 straight years. And, you know, Wrecking Crew was formed really around trying to keep those young kids together, playing together. Again, shout out to Rob, because he gave us a great platform to have those kids continually grow and allow Marcello to work with them continuously throughout the year. So we have an unbelievable core to always come back to. You know, unfortunately, that's running
getting
out.
old.
But we still got another year, baby. So
yeah, and we have so many young kids, though, that, like we said, Ant, the last like year or two, it's like next year they're going to be ready. I can't wait to see them this year, because I know I have some of their parents. They reach out and express how much their son has been working and how much they've been at the field. I can't wait to see it. I just can't wait because we're like loaded with young, excited talent, and they're good humans. You know, like I love these kids. I don't know how else to say it. I truly do, because they're just so deserving of the opportunity, right? And there's so many excited young paintball players right now that's why I think the sport's in a really healthy place. Like, we didn't have this when I was coming up, you know? You could argue we had more opportunity to turn pro because rosters were bigger, you know, and you played 2 25-minute halves. You don't have that now, so it's a little harder to crack into the pro ranks. But there's like more opportunity than ever before with this kind of stuff, which is just tremendous, you know?
So how early can a kid come into the combine and begin that process to get noticed and get into the program, if you will?
So there's several ways. We have the BKI summer camp too, that ends up being a great tool for us to kind of watch players develop that may be a little younger or a little less polished than we'd like to see them at the point where we could choose them for the team. And they'll matriculate through the summer camp. So, you know, Colton started at the summer camp when he was, I think, 12 years old. We have people that have come through the summer camp that help us give us those extra looks. So between the combine, the summer camps, BKI clinics, the professors really get to know these players. And it's not one player, it's not 10, it's not 20. There's like a pool of 60, 80 players that Marcello and I are looking at over the course of a year. And then go through that process of, I think there was 32 at the tryout last year, and we had to take 15 players. So, and there weren't 32 slouchers. There were 32 people that deserved invites. So it gets tougher and tougher every year to choose the team.
And so could a player who's 10 come in and start?
They could certainly come to the combine.
But that's what I mean. Come in and start the process.
Yes. Yeah. Through the summer camps and through the combine, 100%. I'm excited to see the little guy from Texas there that's been, winning some tournaments with his dad there. They just won D4 X Ball. Once they won in Chicago, I was right behind him in the pit, and I went right up to him and I said, "All right, I want to see you. I'm coming to Texas in February. I want to see you at the combine." And he's going to be at the combine, and he's 12 years old, and he's out there playing and contributing on a D4 X Ball team and winning World Cup. So, that's the start.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, I got my dog.
No, I have to do a shout out to my young friend, Master William Newberry.
Oh, Will's the man. I love that kid. What an incredible
glad to
human.
hear you say that, because I get onto him all the time about being respectful and playing with his brain. Right.
Yeah.
Remember, the mind is the weapon. I'm always telling him that. So he's a hard worker.
So Anthony, before we let you go, is there any other way the community can help support Team USA?
Absolutely. I mean, we try to create some cool little products. There's always there's a donate button on the Team USA page. So if you go to teamusapaintball.com and you look there, we would appreciate anything you can do. If we do put out some product, or even just sharing stuff that we do put out, that all does help. But ultimately, it does take a village to get over there and to support the team. And again, we're lucky to have Marcello, and Nikki came and coached last year as well. And we'll certainly be leaning on Ryan and other players, other coaches that are over there. SK, helped us out last year as well. There was more pressure on the next team that hasn't won yet. You can't be the team that drops the ball. So, And then I felt really bad for the U16s who had to wait 2 or 3 days and then play on Sunday and not drop the ball. And those guys were playing D4 X Ball as well, and they were literally played split deck, playing D4 X Ball for the finals, as well as playing for the USA Gold in the finals. And we had to say, no, we can't do that. So, and then obviously the U19 played semi-pro and won. So there's a lot of things going on over there, and hopefully everybody's excited like we are to go back there and repeat.
Well, I think Mike and I, if everything works out, we'll both be in Drew this year. We're going to do a coaches clinic a couple of days before the event, maybe the day before the event. So if everything works out, we should both be there, and we obviously will do whatever we can to help support the team.
100%.
Very cool.
Yeah, we'll be in touch then for sure.
Anthony, thank you so much. We appreciate you giving up your time. And do you want to give out socials, anything you want to plug before you jump off?
No, I'm good. I appreciate you guys bringing me on, and this content that you guys are creating is amazing. So please keep doing that. The last thing I'll say is, Marcello is obviously an unbelievable player, but I actually think he's a better coach than he is a player. So if you can fathom that a little bit, he's really good for the program. He's undefeated at summer camp. And so
Ryan doesn't believe that. He doesn't believe that it's 5 in a row. He says he has to check the facts, Ryan Greenspan. So can you send him the note, the proof, He was like, I was like, bro, you literally undefeated, man. I don't know what you want from me,
yeah, we don't, he's got to make up something.
He's got to make up something.
I bet your pits are just
thank
so
you,
fun.
man.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Thank you, Anthony. Yeah,
Merry Christmas.
Take care, Anthony.
All right, take care, guys.
Man, that guy's awesome.
Anthony's one of the greatest. Yeah, I'm so lucky to have become one of his friends. Honestly, he's become a great friend in the sport, and he's so good for paintball. People don't realize how hard he works. There's times where we're like, Ant, you're taking on too much. Honestly, you're taking on too much. Love it, but it's nonstop all day, and he cares so much about paintball. And he's trying to do so many different things to help paintball grow. People hashtag grow paintball and all that, grow the sport. But what are you actually doing? He's actually doing it. He really
man's out on the forefront,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and he also, if we would have said all of the things that he's actually involved in, in the introduction,
right,
kind of like you,
run out of time.
We could have, he has committed paintball. He has Boston paintball. He is the owner of the WNXL Heroines team.
Yeah.
People don't know that he's responsible for the twister milling.
Yeah,
he's responsible for that. He's largely responsible for the WNXL even being a thing. He's largely responsible for the webcast on the semi-pro or premier field.
I forgot to ask him some questions about the heroines. We should have thought about that.
Yeah.
Well, really, I was trying to narrow this to kind of the Combine, USA Paintball. So this show will actually come out after December the 22nd. So what we'll do is we'll cut that part out and make sure we get that out into the socials before December the 22nd, so people can see that part, know to go sign up beforehand, so they can get their name on the jersey. I think what you guys are doing with the Combine and what I got to experience of the young men in Drew for USA Paintball, it's fantastic. That, if we could extrapolate that out and get it into the regions where everybody was kind of involved at some level, especially with that 16U or U16 and U19 levels, man, we will be in a different space in the next 10 years.
Absolutely.
100%.
The program is fantastic.
It really has shown an incredible, that it is growing the sport. It is the spear point of growing the sport. And you need to tell William to up his communication, and he'll be even more dangerous.
Oh, I've been telling him that for years. He's a little bit of a robot out there sometimes.
Yeah, it's true.
No, but that's one of the greatest things. And it's also, I try to paint the picture at the first practice we have, once we've selected the team, and then we're at the layout practice for Team USA, and painting the picture of what it's going to be like being there in France. Stands are packed. People are chanting other countries, national anthems, and waving their flag and booing Team USA, and it's massive, and you're on the field, and how good that moment feels when you finally overcome and you win and you beat the other team, because that's what we're going to do. How good that feels, and what type of moment that's going to be for the rest of your life. And then getting to watch all of those kids achieve it over the last 2 years has been one of my greatest achievements in the sport of paintball, for sure. Seeing their success and being, having a small piece in that. because I know it's something that they'll remember for the rest of their lives. Just like I remember, my first Team USA experience, I'll never forget it. It's crazy. It was 2013. We were in France, right there in Chantilly, and Oliver didn't show up, and Tim Montresor, rest his soul, came up to me and was like, "You're here? I didn't know you were going to be here. We're down a player. Do you want to play with us for Team USA?" I'm like, "It would be an honor. I would love to." So I wasn't like really selected. It was kind of by default. And we went through the tournament. I ended up starting, had some huge moments in the semifinals and finals, won a couple low body situations. We won the tournament. And that experience being with those guys and seeing how much some of the older veterans cared about that, Ryan Moorhead, those guys, how much they cared about it and being part of it was like, to this day, I mean, just one of the greatest experiences of my life. It was so incredible, such a unique thing to be able to do. You really can't explain it unless you've experienced it, right? But it's a character building kind of moment. So to see these kids go through that, and the last two finals that we've been in, the year before last was like crazy, an overtime finish against Norway, and like the stands were just erupting, and everything was like going against us, just like I told them it would, like the reffing, right. they like everything. And they're like getting frustrated. These are really cool, calm and collected kids. They're getting like frustrated coming in the pits. I'm like, okay, Eric, calm down. We talked about this. We knew it was going to be like this, and then to see them overcome that and get the victory, I'm like, man, that's something that they're going to tell their grandkids, if they have kids and stuff like that. But incredible,
It's good to hear you say character building too, because I think that's I think that's one of the strengths and the things that I love about watching the Team USA, the whole thing, and just incredible.
To me, people don't understand when you talk about the stands. We're talking about European soccer fans who are chanting and cheering like European soccer. It's not like in America where there's some clapping and like they're screaming.
into young men, and paintball comes with so many valuable life lessons, tournaments, winning and losing, so many valuable life lessons, the challenge of how good you can become if you do the right things, and all of those things that paintball can teach you. Oh man, that's the stuff that just makes me so happy. It's the best part of our game.
100%.
Love to see you so joyful that way.
Yeah,
I totally agree. Totally agree. I mean, it's saved a lot of lives and helped people transition from really weird things into being successful humans just because of lessons they have learned here. And it's important to struggle, right? And it's important to fail and learn how to come back from that and make changes. So this is a great transition kind of into talking about your coaching, right? And how you manage. Number one, you have an incredibly busy schedule, co-hosting the Play the Game podcast, which is done very well, very professional.
Thank you.
And then playing with San Diego Dynasty, and then coaching 2 divisional teams, helping with the Combine, helping with BKI, and coaching Team USA. So let's kind of start with the 2 divisional teams. Let's start first with the Vegas Misfits.
Okay.
And it's Vegas Golden Misfits.
Vegas Golden Misfits, yep.
A few of the old LTZ guys who came back and you tell the story.
Yeah. So Sean Moe reached out to me right before the 2022 season and hadn't heard from him in, 10 or so years. I used to be very close with the LTZ guys. I played a couple 7-man tournaments with them back in the day in the pro division. And, when I was a kid, just turned pro at 16 years old, Bobby Vilas and I would drive out to Vegas almost every other weekend and play with those guys. It would be a little bit of fun happening as well. They had a team house and we'd go out and do one-on-ones. And that's where like a lot of my growth happened as a young man. So I was always really good friends with those guys. Sean was also involved with the Aftermath camp for a few years. He's really close with Mike Hinman. So when he reached out, he was, saying that he got some of the guys back together and wanted to build a team to play the WCPPLs and asked if I would be interested in coaching. It's like, absolutely. Are you kidding? This is a no-brainer. I would love to. What a tremendous, opportunity. This would be so much fun. Let's do it. And, we talked about like what that's going to look like. And when Sean basically laid out, what he's willing to provide to build a team, I was like, I'm all in, of course, like you're kind of giving me, carte blanche. I can do it. We can build a team here. All right, let's do it. Like practice as much as they want, none of it's an issue. So, we started carefully kind of selecting the pieces, and, he had a pretty good core already and a couple players already in mind in the Vegas area. And, yeah, that's how it started. So, I'm just so grateful that he decided to reach out to me of all people, because it's been one of the most fun experiences, a great experience. It's actually helped me learn a lot. It's been a really fun program to work with. We've had a lot of success, which is obviously fun as well. Yeah, so that's
talk about that success. So you guys started in 2022.
Yep.
And what division?
Division 3.
Okay. So jumped right in Division 3 X-Ball in the WCPPL, which if anybody has played one of those, it is incredibly competitive.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, how many teams?
I don't know how many teams, 20,
averaging?
30.
Yeah, I was going to say averaging at least 30.
Yeah, there's a good amount of teams in Division 3. Like the totality of the tournament. I think Mike has like 75 teams, maybe even more at some of his events. They're big events.
More.
The WCPPLs are like, it is more. Yeah, I mean his events are pretty. You walk around, you almost feel like you're at like an NXL Chicago. Like they're really good events. But they're really competitive, actually, is like the biggest thing. Like even Division 3 is, you've got some of the best Division 3 players and teams in the nation, in my opinion. So, we set the goal to, first season together, let's make a finals. Let's make a finals, right? First event, we made a finals, we lost. Second event, we made a finals and we won. And from that moment on, it was just kind of on. The team won 2 of the 4 events that year, and then bumped up to the Premier Division, which everybody talks about the Premier Division, as they should, as one. They almost equate it to semi-pro. You would have PB Fit would come and compete and not win, actually, in their division. There'd be like 4 of the PB Fit starters guesting with like Collision, and they wouldn't win, right? Mm-hmm. Just to give an idea of how competitive it actually is. And so we made the bump up, and, all we did was pick up, one player essentially. We did end up picking up Trent Nita at the final event, but the 2 events we won before that, we had only picked up 1 player in the off season, which was one of the most tremendous pickups of all time. His name is Alex Barker. He was playing on another local Vegas team. The Brawlers, huge shout out to the Brawlers, but he wanted to have something that was a little more serious, a little more dedicated, a little more committed. He really liked the direction this team was going. He's a young kid. He's like 20 years old, 21 now. And this kid, I can't say enough good things about him. His work ethic, when we show up to practice, when we go out there to practice, we start it at 7 a.m. So it's like you're at the field at 6:30, geared up, ready to play at 7. We'd get there at 6:30. He's already there geared up, every time. Like it was just so steady and so consistent. If there was a team activity that we were going to do, he was there. If it was lunch, he was there. If it had to do with the team, he's going to be there. Right. And those are the type of players that you want. Like, again, going to lunch with the team doesn't have any effect on your personal play, maybe, but it does actually. Sure. It does. Yeah. Like these things are so important to the team culture. We talked about this earlier, right? And so this is an important thing that I talk about with the owner, and we have the same conversations on Wrecking Crew as well. The culture is so important. And this kid, so anyway, he was a tremendous pickup, phenomenal player, phenomenal team guy. And we make the bump up to Premier, and everyone's like, well, you guys are going to struggle. And Mike's like, you might make top 4. And that was my goal. I was like, hey, let's make some top 4s. Let's make it into the semifinals. And hey, if we're in striking distance, anything can happen, right? We're going to trade hard enough. We're going to be prepared. We're going to know more about the field than anybody else. I guarantee that. We're going to have better plays. We might get outclassed. It's okay. Let's get to the top 4 and go from there. And what happened? Honestly, I don't remember the first event, what place we got. Maybe we got third or fourth, didn't make the final. Oh no, I think didn't make the finals.
I think you got fifth the first event, and
Okay.
then you just dominated.
Yeah, and then we just won the rest. So I think we lost to. Oh, that's right, we lost to Regime. They didn't win the event, so we lost to this team Regime, which is some of the old school guys, Prince, Ryan Podesta. Lost to them in a close match. But then we won the remaining 3 events in a row, which has never been done there. So it was kind of a crazy feat. I was really proud of the guys. They stepped up, and the coolest thing about it was it wasn't on the back of one player. Like throughout the season, each person on the team had a very critical moment where they just stepped up and made something huge happen. And that was like exactly what we talked about at the beginning of the season. I was like, hey, if we want to have a successful season, if we want to win an event, let's isolate it down to one event. If you want to win an event, what's it going to take? You can't have one player that's going down the Dorito side, shooting 3 or 4 guys a game, and that's your highlight. You're not going to win the tournament. You might get to the semifinals on that, but eventually it's going to get shut down, right? You can't have one player that's going down the snake side. It has to be more than one. There's going to be multiple moments within the event where we're down bodies, down points. We have to win one of those points. There's going to be times where we're up bodies and up points and we're trying to protect a lead. And there's going to be times where somebody just has to make a spectacular play. If we do those things, we have a great chance of winning the tournament. If we don't, we probably won't. We'll probably get 3rd, 4th, 5th, something like that, right? We have enough talent to be in that range, but the specialty things, we're going to have somebody do it. I don't care who it is. Somebody's going to have one of these moments, and it has to be at the right time. It can't be a selfish time. It's such a hard thing to express to the team, because then it's like, okay, are you going out there every time trying to find the big move? No, you can't be doing that. You have to play as a good teammate and, just recognize when this is our opportunity. So I spend a lot of time with those guys, with both the teams, talking about philosophy and how to play the game and going over film and situational paintball. And, in a normal point, 5-on-5, here's your best chances of winning. If you're wide and they're not, make sure they don't get wide. Continue to go down that side. That's your best chances of winning, right? If we're up 2 points and it's a 5-on-4, you better not make a stupid move. Like, don't move. Right. we have the body advantage. Communicate with one another. Don't give them a free kill. And I set up in practices, the way we run our practices, there's always a clock. There's a 6-minute clock, and we get right into those plus minus situations immediately. And this was a game changer for both of our teams. It's 6 minutes doesn't say anything negative about it right now. Right. I'm going to give you a high five, great move, give you a little like nod, like asshole, my language on here, but
no, you're good.
Yeah,
you're good.
But it is a unique thing, but that's I think the most important thing with both the teams. I'm so confident that both, Wrecking Crew and the Misfits, those players can almost player coach when I'm not there now, because we've had so many I make sure that they truly understand situational paintball and how to break down a field and how to exploit another team, you know, and how to set up your game plans. So they're not necessarily, you know, it's one thing to, yeah, cool. Like, let's attack over here, shift guns, and then attack over there. And, you know, that's great, you know, paintball art as a coach.
Sure.
But really what I like to do when I'm setting up our plays is it almost doesn't matter what the other team does if your play is good enough.
Oh yeah.
There it is.
So yeah, like if you set up your play that complements itself well enough, it almost doesn't matter what the other team does. And that's actually where you want to be. Is like, okay, if we're going to really stretch out wide on this side, let's do something with that. Let's not just run to the snake and go to 4 other spots, because if we lose that guy, well, now what? We're in 4 like kind of bad spots. If we're going to run to the snake, let's also edge and then go to the corner. So if we lose the snake guy, at least we're in the corner on a field that's hard to get wide. Right. And so now we're 4-on-5, but we have the field advantage. I'd rather have a down body situation, but the field advantage almost every single time.
Right.
You know, especially
Certainly.
on fields where it's hard to get wide. Like if we're 4-on-5, but we're wide and the other team isn't, I feel great about that.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, it's setting up like how we're going to attack with you know, reason behind it, with intention. You know,
Yeah.
What I call defensive aggression. And the concept behind it, I actually borrowed it from some people. All right, I'm going to nerd out for a minute on you, Ryan and Marcello. Bear with me.
I love it.
Kempo karate. And what happens is when I sit there and I do this strike, your body's going to react a particular way, or you're going to try and defend it a particular way, which leads me to the next strike. So,
oh my God, I love that you're saying this.
So the whole concept is defensive aggression. I'm going to the snake wide, but I'm also setting up this defensive maneuver where I'm protected. And if my strike doesn't land, I've got another hit coming.
Yeah.
So that's the concept. I love the way you put it into perspective.
I love what you just said too, because I've expressed it as fighting. And instead of having 4 limbs in a MMA fight, you have 5 in paintball. It's your 5 players.
Right.
And you're attacking in certain you're setting pressure points.
That's right.
And with that, you should be doing something else, you know, but if you don't understand that concept, then you're just kind of running players just to run them. And that's when you see inexperienced pro teams, they run out wide to the Dorito side and they lose that guy. And now they're like hosed. It was like, oh, well, our whole plan was to make it to the Dorito 2. You know, right. and it's like, well, what now? You know,
right.
And again, I'm a huge fan, and I fight my guys on this quite a bit, but I'm just a huge fan of who cares what they're doing. I personally like picking up on individual tendencies from the other team because I like to see if there's I want to see a couple things like J-Rab. If he loses mouse on the break, is he looking to fill quick to the corner, or is he going to stay there for a while and try to win down the other side? Right. Like that's valuable for me as a player.
Yep, sure.
As a coach, I like to look, you know, example, we were playing against Joe Barrett and Kyle Spicka's team in the finals at WCPPL. And Joe Barrett was playing like out of his mind. He's playing so good, shooting people on the break, attacking, but he was out of the back center. Every time the team would run wide on the Dorito side, which was a hard side to run on, his gun, because they would double stack the back center, his gun would shift wide enough to where he was a little exposed, but he was exposed to a bunker that nobody was playing. And it was like, it was up the middle of the field. It was this tower, like, I don't know, 10 feet away from the center 50, right?
Yep.
So I was like, first point, here's what we're doing. We're going wide on the Dorito side. We're going right to that tower that nobody's gone to. And our tower is going to look inside and shoot Joe in the gun.
Yeah.
Like it's, you know, easy kill right there. And it worked.
And a huge one.
Yep.
And a huge one. We lost our wide guy on the Dorito side, but we shot Joe and we won the point, you know? And so it's like, I'll take those kind of things. And, you know, I'll take like, okay, if we're playing against this team and they're having a high success shooting the snake, all right, we're going to avoid that a little bit, you know, like that's the kind of stuff. But I'm not a big fan of totally changing your play based around what you think the other team's going to do, because they might not do it. They might not do it, you know, like the Joe thing was easy. He did it every point. He was going to be in the back center. That's a bunker that you think is safe. But it's like, if you watch a team and they open up, you know, their first 3 matches, they go to the snake on the break. Well, we see you on Sunday in the semifinals. I don't feel good about changing our whole play to shoot for the snake. You know, like I don't feel great about that, you know, unless we're doing other stuff that also complement it, you know, because I'm like, they might not do that. So now it's like you're kind of playing into their game. I would rather be the one leading the charge there with the play calling. And if you set your play up deep enough, and there's enough components to it to where it complements one another, then you're in the driver's seat.
Right.
And that's the whole thing as a coach. Like I've heard you both talk about it on the show. Again, we talked about it backstage, but I love what you guys are doing here. Excellent job. One, giving me a great opportunity to learn from some of the best minds in the game. So thank you guys. But you guys have certainly talked about it. Like there's a moment in coaching where you feel that you're in the driver's seat and you're no longer chasing and they're chasing you,
Oh yeah.
That's where you want to be. That's where you want to live. Like when you're in that space, things are going well. Feels good.
Right. We talk a lot about that. And I think we talked about it with Joey. We want to create tempo, right? So
right.
I'm not trying to create my game plan based around what I think you're going to do as much as I want you to have to think about what I'm going to do.
Totally.
Right. I want to create the tempo in a way that I can put you in a position where you're trying to figure out what's next.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Where I can be 2-3 plays ahead and we're good.
Yeah.
I don't think me personally, I don't think you take it. I certainly want to impose my will, right? Yeah. I want our teams to impose our will on the opponent, right? But I am taking into account there is statistical aspects where I'm like, well, there's a 70% chance they're going to do this. And if they do, they're effed, right? Because to your point, we've covered the bases. It doesn't matter if they went big on the snake. We've covered the base. We've got that covered. Doesn't matter if they did and they pushed the snake. It doesn't matter. We've got that covered.
Right.
Because jobs shift with a simple audible. And for coaches out there, and I'm sure Marcello could talk about this for hours, one of the most basic principles, what you were talking about was, it doesn't matter if you threw this big punch, if it doesn't land, now you're screwed. Too many people don't build off that chaos and they don't understand how to build off the chaos.
Exactly.
And they certainly don't know how to coach players how to build off of chaos. And I think that's something that's missing in the divisionals.
Totally. Yeah. It's like if I'm going to real quick, just a quick example. I'm going to go snake on the break. Say it's a snake side that's like, really hard to make it out on. And it's one of those snakes where if you lose your wide guy, like you're kind of hosed. Okay, we're going to risk it. We're going all the way to the snake, but we're going to go to the center 50 where people don't expect, to where if we lose our snake guy, the other team's going to feel so good that they have an advantage snake side, and our center 50 guy is just waiting, to pick up those fills. I mean, it's like, just a easy kind of scenario off the top of my head, right? But that's the type of play calling and awareness you need to have as a coach, is not just, well, let's go to the snakes. We want to be in the snake. No, do something with that. Have a contingency plan. If you lose them, are you in a good spot still? Like, because there's a good chance you lose that player. If he makes it, how can you capitalize off that? What's your secondary moves for your guys? These are the types of questions that coaches need to be asking themselves in divisional, unless you're playing semi-pro and playing against the Misfits or Wrecking Crew, then just throw it all out the window. Or in the pro division.
There were two things I want to touch on that you said really quick, because I think it's really important. One was you were talking about when players need to turn it on and off. You were talking about the player kind of running through the middle of the field, like when it's not really time to do that.
Right.
And I see players even all the way through the pros, really with the exception of maybe the top 4 or 5 teams, right, where players struggle with when it's time to turn it on and off. Right. So like to piggyback off what you just said, like if the guy goes to the snake, which gun through the middle or from the other side do we pull? And now what? Right. So the second part is that if this, then that. If we make the snake, now what? Right. Which gun are we going to be able to pull? Or maybe we shove that guy on the Dorito side out to the edge of the spot, and then can we get to the corner to shoot him? Right. Yeah, so if this, then that. And so certainly in the divisionals, you see, I think we've talked about this on every show. A lot of guys are, hey, we're going to go here, we're going to go here, we're going to go here, and we're going to go here. And I want you to shoot these ways. Okay, good luck, guys. Right. And then they 100%. Run out, they go play, and then one guy dies. And you can see that they all go, we don't know what to do now. Right. Like we don't know what to do now. Right. Yeah. So it's that understanding in the play call of the if this, then that. If we make it now, right. If we make it, now what? If we don't, now what? Right. So either way, and on all the spots, if this guy who was going here, who had a job, like the guy going up the middle of the field, who's waiting on that snake shot, if we lose him, now what? What happens now? Now who takes it over? Is it the back center guy's going to shift? And what job was he on if he was on one?
Exactly.
So you're really kind of giving away a 101 here, which is fantastic.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So
it's real quick. It's so funny because we obviously hosting PTG. First of all, I think actually that platform has made me a much better player just talking about paintball week in and week out. But it's so funny. We'll have guests on and like, well, I don't want to like give things away. And I'm like, we give it away every week. And look, it's one thing to give it away. It's a whole nother thing for people to actually execute it. It still takes a tremendous amount of experience and time, like practicing it to execute it, So like, I'm always like, I'm happy to talk about all of it. I don't hold much back. There's maybe a few things that I keep, under the belt, but like, it's not that easy just because you hear it doesn't mean you can execute it. And I would actually rather, especially at this point, I would rather all divisional players and teams find some success and have, be excited about playing it because they get some valuable information. To me, that's more meaningful at this point. So it is what it is.
Mike and I talked about after the first show with SK, Mike mentioned, he was like, man, I didn't really think he would give away that much. And I'm like, Mike, SK's he understands that if we give this information away and everybody below gets better, you know what we have to do?
Get better.
We have to get better.
Yeah.
That's right.
We have to continue to learn and be students and continue to develop our craft so that we can stay ahead.
Totally.
It's like the greatest motivator ever.
Absolutely.
Well,
and I actually had this conversation today with Joe Barrett. We were talking about how there's a shift now where people like Ryan, myself, Marcello, SK, all these people are coming out and we're sharing all of this. And you're seeing that shift, that what I would call a generational shift, actually.
Yeah.
And you're seeing it because it's going to make everybody better. It's going to push us to be better because, a tide lifts all ships. So I think it makes a lot of sense that you're starting to see a little bit more openness about all of this, because ultimately, if we want to legitimize the sport, grow the sport, well, then listen, paintball's been around for what? 50 years, if that. Baseball's been around for how long?
120 years.
The techniques, all that stuff's out there, and it's just something that we really need to understand. That
real quick to interject there, I think it's really funny. We talk about being in the driver's seat as a coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Be in the driver's seat. Well, it almost plays into that. If you're sharing the information and people are catching up, then they're trying to do what you're talking about. Now you have the opportunity, if you're smart enough, to be a step ahead. So it's like teams that I coach are like, well, we have this team that we could practice. It's the best team we could practice, but we might play them at the tournament. Who cares? We're the smarter team. We're the smarter team. So practicing them should be our advantage. That should be our advantage, not theirs. Let them come and get in the kitchen and think they know what they think they know. If we're the smarter team, that's our advantage. And they're like, oh, is it? And I'm like, 100% it is. Yeah, like 100%, it's not a problem. You're in the driver's seat. Be in the driver's seat.
So you mentioned with Golden Misfits that they're going to play semi-pro next year, and they're going to play the whole NXL season.
Yep.
And then you also said Wrecking Crew is also going to play semi-pro.
Yep.
So how's that going to work for you?
Well, luckily I don't coach either one of them at the actual events, right? I help them prepare. And I coach.
Well, how does that work?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I coached Misfits in tournaments outside of the NXL, and I coached Wrecking Crew in tournaments outside of the NXL until they phased out of that. They were never on a path to align in semi-pro at the same year. There was different plans with the owners and all that, and then it just lined up this way. And I'm like, well, this is a tough predicament. But at the same time, I'm like, look, guys, it is what it is. I hope neither one of you make me stop coaching the other team, and I hope you would trust in me that I have the integrity that I would never give secrets of this camp to that camp or the other, or give one camp like an inside scoop of how to beat the other camp. To me, I think it's amazing. I would love this season. My plan is to work with both of them, and I want both of them. I hope both of them win. I know they both can't, but if they're both in the finals all year long and battling it out, and one of them win, I mean, hey, that's a tremendous victory for me, and what's cool is what's cool is they're on board with it, you know, and I actually really for experienced ex-pro players. You know, it's been a long time. The game's changed tremendously, right? And you know, a couple of them get meaningful play time. And a couple don't, because it's kind of phased out a little bit. They're still like a crucial part of the team. They've had this guy Wade on the team. He doesn't get a lot of play time, but it's like insane how last year there would be so many matches where things aren't going our way and our good players aren't playing well and we're down points. And I'm like, Wade, hey, I need you. Cause he's like, big team, you're in. And he'll make a move that is like, how did you do that? It's like a 2-on-4 and he goes from the center 50 into the snake, bunkers a guy, shoots 3, and like seriously crazy stuff. And then everyone's like, yeah, Wade, you know, and then he goes out the next point and doesn't have a successful point, right? He's like trying to chase that. So, okay, but he's good for like that spark, you know, and that's a valuable person to have on your team. Maybe he's not an every point guy, but he's a piece that's a spark plug. Anyway, my point is with those guys, they're, you know, a little more experienced, and I coach them differently than I coach the Wrecking Crew guys because it's mostly kids. You know, it's a bunch of young kids that don't have the experience and are really finding their way in the game. And so I do coach both teams pretty differently, you know, and so it's interesting and seeing how they're going to collide this year. I mean, I think they're the 2 best teams in the division. I truly do. They're definitely the most prepared. They're going to be the most prepared. And you know, they practice each other at events this last season. And it was so funny. I'd be there watching and, you know, I'm like, not really rooting for either team. It's just like fun to watch. It was like so cool to see, you know, I'm like, it's you know, I don't know. It's a unique situation for sure. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I think it's going to make for a fantastic story, especially now with Blastcamp moving out. Right. Yeah. It creates a whole new storyline in semi-pro, right? Which we've had some really good stories the last few years, right? With especially, I got to be a part of one, which was cool. You know, Mike, you know, coming in, you know, the year before and doing it the way they did, just being incredibly consistent. And that was just an incredible group of semi-pro teams. And then, you know, Austin Notorious comes in 2022. And steals away kind of the spot. Nobody even thought we were in the running, right? To be honest, I didn't think we were, you know, even if we won the tournament, we're going to win by 1 point, you know, like I'd done the math and I was like, no, I think we're out by 2. Right. So obviously I'm not good at math. So, and then last year in the way that Paintball Fit wins it, right. You know, winning each one of the events kind of stole away from the excitement a little bit, I think, of the story, especially after the 4th event that they won it. It was like, all right, it's kind of theirs to lose. You know what I mean? Now we have because I think if Blastcamp would have stayed, everybody's betting on Blastcamp, right? Now you have this well, sure. Right. Like you know, these 2 teams coming in and you understand what they can do. But I think it makes now for such a much more compelling story, right? We get new characters.
Yeah.
Right.
And leverage, I think leverage reforming is actually huge news with Chris Caputo coming back, Ivan Gonzalez. They're going to be really good. Leverage is a good team. They're a good, solid team, and bringing those 2 back on board after a year of pro experience, like the semi-pro division is going to be very competitive for sure. No doubt.
Yeah. It's exciting.
Yeah, I agree.
100%. So how has you now coaching these teams for a couple of seasons, how's that changed your relationship with SK?
That's a great question. That's a great question.
Maybe he's starting to listen to me a little bit more because he sees results. I
didn't see it going that way. Okay, back up.
I didn't either. I thought that was going to be different.
I love SK. I really do. He is so I'm lucky. I've had some of the greatest coaches of all time. You know, growing up, I had Mike Hinman. I have Shane Pastana, right? I got to play for Todd Martinez. You know, I played for Max Priamensky. I can't pronounce his last name. He's like the famous coach for Russian Legion. Mm-hmm. and Rusty Glaze during his run with Dynasty, and now SK, who is obviously one of the best coaches of all time right now. The accolades speak for themselves. So I'm really lucky because they're also different. So I've learned so many different things from all these different coaches. I've just been able to take pieces that I like, and that's actually what has formed my coaching career, right? And also my playing career. But with SK, he's very analytical. He is so into the data. And that stuff is really, really important. And that's not something that I've ever been. Shane Pastana is the total opposite. I don't think Shane Pastana has ever scouted a match in his life. He watches and he's like, we could win on the snake side because he just knows it. He's like, this is where we win. But you're like, where's the data for that? He's like, right. What do you mean? It's up here.
That's what I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's in here, not up here. It's in here.
It is. It is in here. And he knows how to get the best out of his players. He knows how to go to each individual person, and he has these relationships with them that is like, he knows how to make you want to play for him and the team and give your absolute best. And that, to me, I think is the most valuable thing from coaching. So I've really tried to kind of take that and apply that in my coaching. And that's something that Skinny Kevin, I don't know that I've met a coach that is more thoughtful in his relationship building than Skinny Kevin. And Skinny's an awkward guy, right? He's funny. He's kind of awkward, but he is so thoughtful and he cares so much. And the calls and the messages and the things like during the week that he tries to do to connect with each person kind of in their own way, like he knows I like basketball. He knows I like watching sports. So he'll keep up with me about sports, and we connect in that way. So he builds these relationships that have nothing to do with paintball with the player, which is huge. And I think coaching it's done two things. One, I get it. It's difficult to coach a group of players. I can't imagine what it would be like to coach Dynasty, where you have players that all feel like they know the right things to do and how to do them and what needs to be done. And when things aren't working, it's, here's why. And it's always easy in hindsight. So I can't imagine that. I don't know. I'm going to stand by what I originally said. I think it's affected our relationship the most because he has a little more trust in me. He's like, okay, something you're doing is working. So I trust you a little bit more now. And we have great conversations. He includes me in a lot of the, game planning and, when we have our team meetings, I'll often meet with Skinny a little bit before when practices and we'll talk about what, I think is working and what we should be doing. And, that took a long time to earn. And I get it. Again, who am I? To him, he's Skinny Kevin. He's one of the greatest coaches of all time. And we have a team full of people that are just loaded with information, it's crazy to think of the amount of years of experience on our team. Alex, Yosh, and Ryan alone, it's unbelievable what they've done in the game. So again, I can't imagine really being in Skinny's shoes, and he makes the tough decisions and puts his foot down when it's, time to really say, nope, this is what we're doing. You have me and Ryan fighting about something and he's like, nope, you're both wrong. And we're doing this. All right, we're doing that, and it's I don't know that many personalities or coaches could step into that role and do that. I really don't. It's that takes a certain, it takes a certain type of mettle and confidence, because if you're wrong, you're getting blasted on Sports Center, it's that type of situation,
Right. Yeah.
So,
it's kind of been a joke. Several of the coaches we've talked to, we offline, we've kind of talked about, what happens if SK ever leaves, who's going to take that job? And everybody's like, I don't know. It's not me. It's not me.
I don't want it.
Yeah. And SK was also, he was a great player in his own right. Back Absolutely. When he played, SK was fantastic. It was always a little funny because he would carry 13 pods. And I think SK weighed, 105 pounds back then. And, his pack was literally wrapped around the edges of his back, where his elbows would sit on his pack.
Yeah.
And so he could rest his elbow down on the top of his pod and shoot his gun. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. It literally, he had so many pods around his sides, really is what it was. They weren't even on his back anymore. He would rest his elbow and,
that's too funny.
Shoot. It was awesome.
Yeah. I've also learned that every so often I have to make time to go have a beer with him. And in doing that, our relationship grows. He likes to enjoy himself. He's going to give it
He does.
every Wednesday night is trivia night. Up here in Encinitas, he lives about 30 minutes from me. So I'm like, every so often, I don't like to leave my house. When I'm home, I'm like, it's so great. I have my routine, right? I wake up, go to the gym, come home, I eat, go back to the gym at night, come home, watch sports, do a podcast. Like that's pretty much it. See some of my family. That's my routine when I'm home. And my girlfriend, actually, I'm so glad she came to World Cup because she's been an amazing supporter for as long as we've been dating. We've been together 3-4 years now. And she watches every single event, but she's never actually been. And so I come home from a tournament and I'm like exhausted. I'm like, all I want to do is be here, relax. I want to be on the couch, recover, and then I got to travel somewhere that weekend to teach. And she's like, what do you mean? Like she came to World Cup and she realized it's not the playing, it's all the other stuff, right? You're just so stimulated the entire time. And that's how it is when we're at clinics or coaching, anything. It's just nonstop. And so Kevin is like, it's trivia night, Wednesday night. I'm like, I really don't want to. But all right, Kev, I'm coming tonight for you. You're gonna go play some trivia.
Do you guys usually win the trivia?
The one time that I did go, we would have if we would have listened to me on the final answer. I remember giving him shit for that for quite a while because he fought me on it. He was the one that fought me on it, and I ended up being right. I was wrong on like a lot of the other ones, but it was like the final one. I was like, I know it. It's funny.
That's too funny.
You didn't give him the faith.
Yeah.
Didn't have faith.
Yeah. But see, that was part of growing. That was, again, so maybe some trust was earned there, some trust was earned there. Yeah. No, but I think the answer you were looking for, and there's definitely truth to that too, is coaching also just gives you that perspective of how hard it is. You could have the right play, and if the players don't execute, or when players come in and they give me a little bit of attitude, or they're rough on me, it makes my job really difficult, and that has certainly brought a different perspective because I used to have a bad attitude. I'm just hyper competitive. I've always been. I hate losing, and I put in a lot of work, always have. So I feel like when we lose, why are you not as mad as me? Why, did you guys not sacrifice as much? I don't know what it is. And so I would lose my temper a lot, and I think coaching has definitely I've been tamed from it, right? Because I see players come in with that same. So it's funny because on one end, I have so much sympathy for them and I can relate to them. And so I can find ways to make them not do that anymore. But then to me, it makes me reflect and go, okay, so this is how Skinny feels when I come in and act like that. I need to not do that. So when I come in, I need to find a more constructive way to give him information that will help him do his job better, so that we can work together. So, I know that was the answer, you guys. Again, I listened to every show, so I know that I know.
No. I thought
on the previous
but I thought your answer was great because I think that's true too, right? Yeah. Like if one of my players, I know is coaching another group and finding success doing that, I am probably going to be more apt to share, to allow their opinion to be a bigger part of the plan, right? Because they have I do think every player at some level should coach at some point.
I agree.
Because it does give you a better process.
Oh, man,
it helps you to better understand the field. It helps you to better break things down, and certainly makes you a better player.
Yeah.
Because once you go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, Ryan. But you know where it started for me, and we have been huge advocates of it on PTG for a long time, is playing overseas with other teams, right? I started doing that in 2012, going to Australia 2 or 3 times a year, going to Europe, and you're a hired gun over there. So you're a player coach, right? Mm-hmm. You would go to these teams and you're not there just to play. I'm there as a, 18, 19, 20-year-old kid where I'm you know, to where like you it's all on your shoulders and you have to be responsible for the entirety of the game plan. You got to be responsible for making sure the paint is in a cooler. You got to be all the things, you know, it's going to help you grow so much, so much, you know, playing in Asia, playing in Europe, playing in Australia. Those years were instrumental to my growth as a player, you know, and my understanding of the game too, you know, because it's not just about my role and what I'm supposed to do in my job. It's, you really have to be responsible for all of it, you know, and so.
Well, you hit on two things that I think they're important. Like when you were talking about with Kevin, Skinny Kevin, you know, camaraderie doesn't happen by accident, right?
No.
You know, he makes that, developing a strong sense of trust and accountability and togetherness around team goals. That requires intentional effort, and
it does.
That's important. And so the fact that SK makes that effort and it's reciprocated and received well, that's key. You talk about people going out and getting new experiences and understanding these different things. And I think a lot of paintball players have a tendency to think that success is gained by the amount of time we spend doing something. And I disagree. I think that's certainly one aspect of it, right? You got to put the time in, but I think it all boils down to, it's the quality of time you put in.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's those elements that I think that you've hit on that I think make perfect sense and probably will resonate to a lot of our listeners. And I hope they get it. I hope they're here and I hope they're listening.
Oh, they better be. This is one of the best shows out. Again, I keep telling you guys, I'm so excited that you guys are doing this because there's not many platforms that I get to go, you know, hosting our show. I don't ever go back and listen to our own shows. I hate hearing my own voice. I probably say a lot of dumb things on there too, you know, but I get to listen to this show and it's phenomenal. So I hope you guys just stay consistent with it. You know, it's great. So if you guys are listening, subscribe to this and share it with all your friends and make sure this channel can grow. That's another huge thing. This is on the Major League Paintball YouTube. If we want outside sponsorship, we need the numbers on this platform to be, you know, big. So please share it, subscribe, you know, like all the episodes, leave comments on the episodes. It makes a huge difference. It really does.
Do leave comments because, you know, Ryan and I have a tendency to try and go back. And if we see a good question or whatever, we're going to hop in there. We're going to engage with you. I really, you know,
a good question.
I want to talk to some people.
A good question. Good question.
Yeah. Sometimes there's things on there that are like directed at Go Sports. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't have anything to do with Go Sports.
That's not me, bro.
Right. Like, you want Maddie's cell phone number?
Yeah.
It is funny how I get messages too all the time. Like those two, they're not connected, you know, like it's funny. Yeah. People have a little bit of an illusion of the powers that be, but
yeah, they think it's all like in this one hemisphere, right? Like we're all involved in this, and we are to a sense, but the reality is all of the powers that be for each thing are all different, right? Yeah. So it's entertaining, but at the same time, it does show how small our industry really is, right? People think like this whole thing is just this, and it's not. But I will tell you too, like I told you this in France, like I listened to really one show and it's Play the Game, right? I even listened to your latest episode that had nothing to do with paintball. And it was really cool.
Awesome. Oh, that's so cool.
And started listening to their music actually.
Really? Oh, I love that.
I love it. Because I was like,
the
guy is pretty interesting. So maybe the music's good. And so I went and listened to music and I was like, all right, it's cool. I like it.
Yeah. That's one of my best friends. And he's truly like just such an amazing human. Such a good person. So it's been a long time coming. I've been wanting to get him on the show just because there's so many parallels with watching his career and the things that he would sacrifice and do to like make any sort of money, you know, because they're a small time band, you know, they're finally getting to a place where touring brings them enough money to where they don't have to do all these odd jobs, you know, but it's still like, it's like pro paintball. It really is. It's like some players make, you know, just enough, you know, from playing and most don't. And you have to do other stuff to, you know, chase this dream. So it was cool to have them on, and they have great music. I like.
I'll tell you one of the best ones I've heard in a while was the one with Mike Jeffrey. Like I didn't know a lot about him.
Me neither.
But he's an incredibly interesting guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You guys got to have him on this show.
We are. It's funny. Like he was scheduled like a couple of weeks before that episode came out. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, I'm definitely going to listen to this and really attentively because he's going to be on our
Awesome.
show. So
Awesome.
now I have a little bit of background about him, and yeah, man, really interesting,
Cool.
very intelligent. Love to hear kind of you and his banter back and forth about, you know, telling stories. And because I totally agree with you. I've been saying that for a really long time. Like, our format is fine. Everything we do is really good. We just we package the product in a really stupid way,
Totally.
right? Like, if we would package it differently, where you could insert characters into the storyline, and like, kind of like the Best Kids in Texas thing that Dan did, you know, where you watch this film about these men that just happened to have paintball in it, right? The story was about the team and it just had some paintball in it. But I, like, even though obviously I'm biased because I'm in it, but the reality is, like, I got sucked in to the characters, right?
Totally.
I got sucked into hearing the stories. And so I totally am on board with that thought process. Like, it just,
if we could
go
find a
ahead.
way to follow like 5 pro players for a whole season, what they do, go to their clinics, follow them on the flights, the early, you know, waking up at 5 in the morning, stumbling down to the airport, you know, going cross country, staying with the family that owns the field, you know, going to the field in the morning, connecting with the players, teaching the players, then flying to France, Team USA. Like, what people would be like, what? That is so cool.
100.
So cool.
I think, and I did agree with Mike, though, that I think it would be really neat to have one of those, and then somebody maybe in the middle, and then somebody at the bottom, right? Where they get kind of the full spectrum picture, where it's like, you have this guy who's a professional, whatever, like, he sells insurance, right? And then he's, you know, you get the whole picture, right? You get the people who have done the work for like you for 20 plus years, right? Who are now at a place where paintball is what they do, right? And then you get those bottom guys who maybe they're 5 years into that journey. And
more people can relate to that.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think
totally agree.
That's our thing. We're not relating.
Yeah,
that's
correct.
our problem.
Correct.
Right?
We're like, hey, watch this thing.
Watch how
like
awesome, exciting we are. Because we're like, hey, look how exciting we are.
Makes no sense.
We're not relating to the person who has no clue.
Yeah. Do you guys like football?
Love football.
Yeah.
Well, college football. I haven't watched pro football in forever.
Okay. All right. Why? Same format, pretty much.
No, college football. I mean, pro football, not interesting to me anymore.
Why? Same format, pretty much. Right.
But
that's my point.
I see
that's
where
my
you're
point.
going.
You are invested in the stories of the college players.
That's exactly,
you know,
right.
like I love watching NFL games, but when the Pittsburgh Steelers played the Patriots, it actually ended up being a good game. It actually ended up being a good game, but I didn't care to originally watch, you know. I was like, why? But the format didn't change. It's just the teams changed. The stories changed. The individuals changed. So that's always been meaningful to me. Like I don't watch basketball as much as I did, just don't have as much time, but I used to watch basketball religiously, like every single Laker game, every Warrior game. But if it was like the Hornets, I like the Hornets now. LaMelo Ball's been balling out, so he's kind of fun to watch, even though I didn't think I was ever going to like him as an athlete. He's really good. But, you know, back in the day, the Hornets versus the Pistons, I would turn it on and be like, this is so boring. Why is it boring? You're watching the exact same game as the Lakers versus the Warriors. It's the same game. Yeah. It's the same format, but there's
you're not
different
vested
players.
In the characters
yeah,
that
there's
make
different
teams.
Right. There's different players and different stories that we've been told and different characters that we've fallen in love with. So to me, it's like so easy to say, duh, that's what we're missing. That's what we need to be giving people. We need to give people a reason to fall in love with what we do. It's not about, all sports are kind of silly if you think about it. Kick a ball in a net, put a ball, shoot a ball in a hoop, throw a football pigskin. They're all silly, but it's the performances, it's the athletes, it's the personalities, the rivalries. It's the kind of tribalism of like, well, Rams are from Los Angeles, so that's my team. Like that's what it's about. So we got to tell those stories. That's my opinion. I'll say it's on blue in the face.
I totally agree. Yep. I've been saying that for a long time. Like we have a great product. We just don't package it well.
Totally.
We don't put it in we don't put it like if they could in post instead of having the split deck thing that's what they share on YouTube, right? Like right now they pull they just show the same stuff that's on Go Sports. Pull it out, separate the games, create some characters and repackage it and put it out like that. Stop putting out these split deck games that some random person bumps into and they go, what the hell is this?
Totally. It's confusing.
What is happening right now? Yeah. They're like, I was just watching these two teams and now there's two other teams going on. And, I hear, Tom sometimes talking about the buzzer thing, which by the way, I love the buzzer. I just think sometimes it can get a little bit fast, but at the same time, like I like the way.
The concession.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, I love the concession. Yeah. Like if we just had, look, it's 2023, almost 2024. We have great technology. When somebody concedes, there should be a graphic that pops up that says that this team conceded. That solves the problem of confusion.
But again,
it's
if
the easiest solution.
But if they would just pull it out and put the game, that one game by the match by itself.
Sure. Yes.
Right. And there was somebody in post doing the commentary.
Right.
Yeah, doing the commentary that's explaining what's happening, because then you have part of the story, a little bit of the game, part of the story, a little bit of the game, part of the story, a little bit of the game, and the story that you're being told are players from the teams that are playing.
Totally agree.
Right. Yeah, and so if we just packaged it in a more easily consumable way, I think it could be done. But
I agree. Yeah.
Well, we're an hour and 45 minutes into this thing. Is there anything else you want to share with us before we jump off?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, if you guys don't have any more questions or anything, and I think we're good.
You have answered every question that I had.
Same. It's like you are going. I'm reading my questions, and you moved into and you just kept covering the questions I had. I'm like, okay, let's mark that one off.
Nice. Yeah, I know in the email, you wanted to go Team USA, coaching, Dynasty stuff. We kind of touched on Dynasty stuff, but yeah, I don't know. I think we got it all, guys.
Well, let's touch on it real quick. You guys making any changes since Michael's gone?
We have our eyes on like 3 prospects, and if we don't land them, we're totally okay, I think. At the end of the day, losing Mikey is a bummer. I don't think it's as detrimental as Joey made it out to be. I don't either. Mikey's a fantastic player, and it'll actually probably hurt more in like 2 or 3 years, but maybe by then he comes back to the team, but it's really hard right now on our team to break into the starting 5 on Sunday. It's really, really difficult. We still are really stacked, really potent roster. Mikey is
depth chart significant.
Yeah. So if we can make a move, cool. If not, I think we all feel pretty confident. There is an issue with, some of the guys having kids in around like March, April. So depending on when that happens, we might be light some bodies at an event, but hey, that gives because it's Ryan, Blake, and Chris Shear that are all in that position. So it gives, players like Arturo and Harry, another chance, if there's an event where you could play meaningful spins, it's huge. So, I don't know. There's only a few people that we have our eyes on, and if we don't land them, then all good. I think we're really confident with where we're at. So
when is the first time you guys will get together off season?
Yeah, it's a good question because usually it's January, but we haven't put a date together yet. And my calendar is like filling up with coaching. I'm like, I need to leave one of these weekends open. Should be January, but we haven't officially set anything yet. Everyone's I don't know. It's getting harder and harder every off season. Everyone's like a little too relaxed.
They go dark. Yeah.
Little too relaxed. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see.
Well, congratulations again on your MVP.
Thank you.
4 in a row. Certainly deserved it. We, I think it was the SK show. We kind of raved a little bit about how well you're playing. And it looked like, after you guys lost that first event this year that you did lose, you kind of shifted. Like you're not only did your body change some, but it looked like your focus was different. And it was really neat to watch, because it was like you kind of flipped a switch a little bit. Like, not that you weren't doing the things before, because we see it on Instagram of you in the damn sauna every day, taking pictures. But
what's
like,
funny is you guys
switched.
you guys see like probably 25% of the stuff that I do. I'll like post like a little thing. It's part of the job. Got to get something out there. But yeah, I did hear you guys kind of mention that too. And it's funny. We had a Dynasty Champions Club meeting last night, and the guys were going around asking like favorite moment of the year, and everyone was kind of talking about highlights of the year. And for me, one of my favorite moments of the year was losing in Philly, because it was that Sunday was my 33rd birthday, which is a number very close to me. It was my dad's number. It's the reason that I wear 33. And it was also Father's Day. And, you know, my dad passed away a few years back, and I was like, just so certain we were going to win that event. Felt like it made sense, had to happen. It meant a lot to me to make it happen. And not only did we not win the event, but I actually felt that I played pretty poorly against X Factor. And so it really kind of weighed on me. But I remember like on the flight home, I changed my flight. I was supposed to stay until Monday and kind of hang out with the guys. And I changed my flight, left Sunday night. It was like, no, I need to go home, and just wasn't feeling well. But, you know, on that flight, I was like, I had this kind of shift in thinking of how great I thought that event was going to end up being for us, you know, and kind of even posted about it. Like, I think this is part of the magic. You know, it's something that I've learned over the years, actually, is some of these losses are like really good for you. If you can process them in the right way, they're really good for you, because it's a spark, you know. Sometimes you really need that, especially when you're in striking distance. It's one thing if you're just getting your butt kicked, you're not making Sundays, and you're just like, you know, going 1-3 at events. That's a different story. But if you're like in striking distance and you're losing those close, tough matches on Sunday, they're really inspirational. You can harness a lot of feel from them. And really, actually, at the start of this year is when I kind of really locked in with a whole new kind of program and different training. Started working with a physical trainer that helped me recover from my knee injuries when I was younger. Yeah. And I've been on a really good program just kind of all season, and felt really good about this year. And then that event was like, just everything that I thought was going to happen didn't happen. So there was a little bit of a switch, but it was definitely already in motion, you know. And then the Chicago one, I think, was probably bigger than the Philly one, actually, because our team last year, we you know, got third place at one of the events, and then was refocus. And that Philly one was, again, it being 2 events in a row of some kind of heartbreak losses was, you know, motivating for everybody. Like, okay, we got to get back to all of the little things that the team does, you know, all of the conversations that we have, all of the meetings, you know, can't skip anything. Everybody has to be dialed in. Let's, you know, before World Cup, I completely revamped our code sheet. You know, I said, we're erasing half of these codes. Other teams know them. We're implementing new ones. So between, you know, Chicago and Cup, like the week after, I sent this whole thing. I was like, at Cup, we're going to have codes for this, 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 and this. If anybody has anything that they want to add, send it to me now. I'm going to add it. If anyone disagrees with anything, send it to me now. We have 2 months, you know, like, let's get this dialed in. We came in super dialed in with that. That's another thing. And I hope you guys actually, I've listened to every episode. I don't know that you guys have gone over really like a code calling.
We have not, but we have had listeners ask about it.
Yeah.
And it is something we were going to add to some. Yeah. So we talk about it now. So this show is going to come out the day after Christmas.
Okay.
So people aren't going to be at work. So we can go a little long, and it's okay.
Ah, all right. I'm here as long as you guys want. Yeah. I mean, I don't mind. I hope I'm not keeping you guys. It's been awesome, but
you're keeping that guy, because this guy's going. I leave tomorrow morning to go to Zion for a week. So
nice. Have you been?
Yeah. No, this is our first time.
Incredible. My little brother lives about 30 minutes from Zion, so we've gone a few times. It's gorgeous.
Love it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
No, code calling is one of the most important things. And one, you have to really understand the game to even know what you're creating codes for, but being able to make communication more sufficient, it's imperative, and like if you can have a code that means for, 2 players to make a certain switch and get into a different formation, that can save you 5-6 seconds, that is the difference between winning and losing a point in pro.
Yep.
Like being able to recognize an advantage and capitalizing quick enough is all through communication and understanding, the game. So codes are like imperative. They're so important. There's something that you really need to sit down and it's not just, okay, what are we going to call kills? What are we going to call balls? And what are we going to call the bunkers? It's no, we need a code that's like, hey, we have to go attack down the Dorito side and win in 30 seconds, or we lost 2 guys on this side. We need to shift this gun, they made it past the gap that we normally call this, you should have. Teams are so like Charger is like no one's wide on the snake side. That's like the most basic.
Yeah.
You need to have one for every gap, right? So that middle players can immediately react and know what zone to shut down.
Yeah. Yep. I have this conversation all the time with teams. I talk about 3-dimensional thinking versus 2-dimensional thinking. And you just gave a great example of what 2-dimensional thinking is. Oh, Charger, right? Okay, there's no one here. Well, there's a lot more.
Right.
Here, right.
There's a lot in there.
And what's happening is when I throw out that code, that one word that has a tremendous amount of information behind it, it's basically giving me the roadmap to what we need to do and to succeed. I did want to jump on something you said, and I'll say this real quick. I tell this to teams all the time, especially my own, and I think I've said it on one of the previous shows. But you talked about how Dynasty after Chicago got into this new, mindset. And I think there is no growth. I don't think growth and comfort can coexist. I think growth comes from adversity. I think I fancy myself a minor stoic. So I believe that it's how we react to things and how we adjust accordingly. How do they affect us and how do we let them outwardly affect us and inwardly affect us? Well, ultimately we'll steer the ship and correct it, right? Because we ultimately want to do the right thing. We ultimately want to get better. So that's one of the things we have to do. But I did want to make a comment about something that I'm doing. Everything you just said about codes and matter of fact, about 4 or 5 things you've touched on tonight. I'm doing a little funny thing. I was telling Ryan about it. I'm doing this funny thing on my page, Zen and the Art of Paintball. And I'm releasing an interview from right after our first professional event last year. So I had only coached one professional event now, and I was doing an interview with the Mark Dale, over in England, and I chopped it up. And what I'm doing is I'm releasing little aspects each day. One of which, the one I think just got released, is about communication and being efficient in your codes. So It's kind of funny. And at the end of this, what the big reveal is going to be is like, hey, do I still think that way? What's happened after a year of coaching or 2 years coaching in the professional division? Do I still believe and think these ways? But anyway, to your point, absolutely. The best teams, the most successful teams, I don't care how much talent you have. If you are a team that knows how to communicate and play ball together, you've won 90% of the stuff out there.
It is so important. The coach can only give you can go through if this, then that, have your little breakdowns, but there's variables that happen out there that if the players cannot communicate with each other and create a secondary or third game plan, given the actual situation, you're in a lot of trouble.
That's right.
You're in a lot of trouble. Communication, it's the most underrated skill or talent or, commodity in paintball, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
It's so crucial. The top players understand it. The top teams have it, right? And it's imperative to winning. Imperative.
And processing speed.
The only team, absolutely. And communication helps expedite your processing speed as a team.
Perfect.
What's funny is I think the only team that's ever had success without great communication is Russian Legion. And it's so fascinating because they actually truly don't have great communication as a team.
Oh no. Yeah.
They're very scripted in their
they have choreography.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's like, okay, you're 15 seconds at this bunker, 12 seconds I'm not kidding. I played on the team for a year and I was like mind blown. You know, I tell this story a lot. I remember a point I went down the Dorito side. I shot like 4 people. I had a great point. I was like, that was sick in my head. I'm like, it was a good point. I come off and the coach is with his timer. And he's like, no, Marcello, you were 18 seconds at that bunker, 20 seconds too long at this bunker. This is a problem. Like, I couldn't have gone earlier. You know, like, what do you mean? You know, I'm like, I went when it was given to me. You know, actually, Mike, you kind of talked about this with your team and with Joey, and you're like, it's not that you're a slow team. It's you take what's given. That's the type of player that I value survivability more than anything. You can't win the game if you're dead.
Right.
Right. At the end of the day, it's whoever presses the buzzer at the other end or makes the team concede. That's how you score points in this game. So you need to be alive. Now, you need to take risks at certain times, but that's situational awareness, and you need to position yourself to be in good spots to get kills. But my role, it's about survivability. So, you know, if it's not completely given to me, I'm not going to risk it because it's not worth it. Now, if the situation presents, I'll risk it because it is worth it, you know, but otherwise, like, I'm going to go when the move is there. You know,
you can't close if you're dead.
Yeah, you definitely can't close if you're dead, you know? You know, it's like, it's not the type where it's like, I just go and maybe I shoot 4 people and we win, but then the next point I die in the first 30 seconds. Like, that's not my game. Never will be, you know. It's going to be methodical. And as soon as the opening's there, then take it, but it's going to need to be there, you know. Now, if we lose a side and we're down a point, I'm going to take the risk and try to go through it. If I get shot, whatever. If I don't, cool, you're rewarded, right? But again, that's high level situational awareness. That's a different thing. And a lot of people, they don't get it. You know, they really don't.
Right. It's tough too, because a lot of that comes from that experience, right? Is certainly understanding kind of, that's what I was talking about earlier, to know when to turn it on and off, right? Having just coached a very young professional team who really, again, when I got there 2 years ago, was a Division II team. 2 years, right? So like, they weren't ready to be where we were. So we had to throw out these haymakers, right? Because they couldn't play yet that really controlled, intelligent, methodical style of paintball that I knew you have to be able to play in order to be successful, right? You have to. And so we work on those things at practice, and then you get to the event and to watch it completely fall apart multiple times. It's like, okay, do you guys just want to run? You just want to go run into these, like, I mean, I can create plays where you're just going to run, but the reality is we may get 1 point, but we're going to lose 4. You're going to lose 4 because you cannot run at these guys, right? Like, that's kind of what happened, you know, the first time we played you guys, Marcello, is like they wanted to go out. We ran 1 play. It worked just fine. And then, you know, we go out and run the next play and it didn't work out, and they come back in and they're like, we got to go far. And I'm like, okay, I'll let you go far. We can go far. We can go far. Like, how far you want to go, man? I mean, like, honestly, you guys should have beat us. If it weren't for that 1 point where you guys started with 6. That was okay. So that was the second time we played you guys. And Anthony, who was not called on the line, runs out there. Like, so young man, bless his heart, did not have a great match. Not even a good match. So he gets a major penalty in that point. Yeah. So now then very next point, by the way, he shoots Marky. Then we go to the other side and he gets a major penalty. Yeah.
Yeah. Not good.
I'm like, brother.
You know, that's part of experience too, though, is like somebody on the box should have been like, we got 6. Someone, you know, like, I can't imagine that. I mean, knock on wood, watch first event in Vegas. It happens to us. But I'm like, I can't imagine that happening to us, you know, because I'm like, you know, I'm having conversations with all my guys at the gate. You know, if there was 6, I'd be like, hey, hold on, who's off? Who's off? You know?
Literally, when they come back in, I'm like, not one of you idiots looked around.
Yeah, totally. That's not on the coach. That's like, that's wild that no one at the gate,
no one
recognized that.
Decided to look like, what are you guys doing out there?
Yeah.
Do you talk at all? Do you look out to see who's on the other end and turn around and go, hey, so-and-so's on your side?
That's a good question for you, actually, Ryan. And this is something that both of my divisional teams and Team USA and our team as well, this is imperative. And so we do pretty extensive physical training at our practices so that we can be on the gate quickly. Dynasty doesn't. Guys are a little older. They don't buy into it. It is what it is. But at tournaments, they're efficient in the pit and we're fine. But with the younger teams that I coach, it's high pace, super high pace. And the whole point of the conversation is I need you guys to beat the other team to the gate by at least 15 seconds so that you're down there on the other side. You're looking downfield. You're talking to each other. You're figuring out, hey, here's what coach has told us. Where are you going? You're doing this. Okay. You're reiterating what you're supposed to do. And in that time, hopefully you're like, oh, we got 6. Hey, somebody's off, it mitigates all of that. But I think it's so important for players to talk at the start gate. I think the communication before the game starts right there is like, I mean, it's imperative. It is so crucial to having success in that point, because everybody could get told to play, but then you're walking to the gate. And if you're just like in your own space, like it's really easy to let the moment kind of get a little too big and forget like what you're supposed to do. And then if this, then that, or, but if you stay connected with your players, you have those conversations, you're really tuned into the play.
The other great thing though, that I noticed that happens there is not only are you kind of reiterating the play and solidifying that, but you're also then able to kind of talk through so-and-so came on from the other team, right? You get to see all them 100%. Walk past you. So you get to see them come on and you can look down and say, hey, it's so-and-so, coach said, or you already know something. Hey, we need to audible this. We'll just tell coach when we get into the pit. Right. And then also hey, he does this and then this really quick. And, you may pick up something that the outside guy didn't look at. Right.
Absolutely.
So it's also being able to have those really easy conversations that didn't get to happen in the pit in the 45 seconds that the play was being talked about.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah. It's huge. It's huge. It's a huge part of the divisional teams that I coach is beating the other team to the box, having time to communicate with one another, get on the same page. And then it's also like you watch the other teams like struggling to get to the gate and you're like, you just have an advantage.
Right. And they're flustered.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I misunderstood what you said at first. That's why I kind of leaned in, Marcello, when you said, we do a lot of, physical exertion type stuff. And I was like, wait, because I thought, me personally, for my team, I'm like, you should come to practice correct. You should already have worked out and trying to do all that stuff, because when we're at the field and we're in that net, we're working the brains. I don't have time for you to be working on your cardio.
That's layout practice. So 2 different things for me, right? We have our, it's rare that I get to practice on the layout with our teams. I set up, how I want those practices to go, right? But obviously I'm not there. I'm usually with our team. But the other practices are their exercises, their workouts, I bring my guys into the deep waters, with different drills and fundamental work and situational things and all of these things so that they are never going to be in a worse position in the tournament. Right. And that's
the goal.
Glad
make that differential, because on non-layout weekends, I'm pushing them so hard on drills because I want them. And then at the end of the day, when they're exhausted, that's when we go into really.
When do you win a tournament? When can you win a tournament? It's not when you're fresh.
It's not when you're fresh.
It's when you're at 90, 80%, hopefully not 70%. Right. But I tell my guys all the time, I say, hey, if we play a team that's more talented than us, more experienced than us, but they're at 80% and we're still at 95%, we have a good chance of winning. Right. So let's not let that be an excuse. And thank goodness, on both teams, we have just a ton of athletes, great players that really take it seriously, Yeah.
Excellent, man. We have covered a lot.
We have,
but I knew it was going to be this way though. I knew it.
I did too. And I kind of planned this because of when the show is going to launch, that it would be really long. Right. Because I knew we would get into a lot of different aspects. Like I've listened to your show so much that I understand, like I hear the passion in you when you talk about these things. And so I was like, we're going to go deep.
When are you going to put him on your show, Marcello?
Let's do it.
Oh goodness.
Anytime you want. Yeah, absolutely.
We should both come on. At the same time.
Yeah, we need both of you. Yeah. You say that as Mike, you haven't been on the show either.
But he's so much more articulate than me.
You guys are both great. I'm going to talk to Tyler. I know we have a guest lined up for Tuesday, but I would love to make you guys both like in the next month. Let's get you guys on. Be awesome.
So one more thing, I want to finish up that code thing you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I don't want the lower divisional teams to think that they need to have 100 different codes, but you need to have the codes that are the most important, right?
Yeah.
With where are the 2 or 3 guys that are going to be on jobs, and that job that they're on needs to have some sort of a code, right? So that if that guy dies, you can get into it, or you can yell something to let somebody know that they need to go get into it and say their name, right? Every time, put a name on it, put a name on it, put a name on it. Who needs the information the most, and say their damn name. But as you get up through the ranks, I mean, there's codes for everything, right? You have codes for each gap. You have codes for every single gap down both sides of the field. You'll have codes for each one of the big things in the middle and who needs to shoot. I mean, it's insanity how complex communication. And that's what in my opinion, has changed the most in the last 5 to 7 years, is the communication has just gotten so much more dense.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with that actually, for sure. Yeah, there's been a lot more importance on communication, and for teams that are, listening, simplify it, right? Think of conversations you're going to have on the field. Take what might be a sentence and give it a code. That's an easy way to simplify it. For me, I think the most important things are recognizing where your advantage is. I think personally, my personal beliefs are your biggest advantage on a paintball field is real estate. So if you're wide and the other team is not, that's the biggest advantage you could have. I place that over having a body advantage. I would rather have less bodies, but be wide and the other team not, than more bodies and not wide. So with that, those are the most important codes to me. Knowing when a team is not wide on a side and how to set up to make sure that team doesn't get wide on that side. Right. Yeah. So I would build your codes around that first and then go from there. But if you start there, you're going to have a really good basic understanding of the game and how to play.
Yep. Reverse engineer it.
Great tip. Yeah. Great tip. All right. Anything else?
No, we really went the distance on this one. It's been fun, man. I enjoy talking with you guys, truly. So, if you guys ever want me on again, I would love to come on. It's nice to be on this end of the show, getting asked the questions. But definitely need to get you guys on PTG. Thank you guys for what you guys are doing. I think this is an amazing platform, as I already said, for, not just coaches. I mean, if players aren't tuning into this, they're crazy. Like I said, I listen to every episode, because you guys have some of the best minds in the game on here revealing great secrets about coaching. And so, how am I not going to listen to Joey Blute get on here and talk about how he coaches, or you guys talk? I'm going to be playing you guys next year, so keep it up.
I love it.
Keep it up.
Again, it only makes us better, right? Like all of us, right?
Absolutely.
Like the more information that we can push out and the more we can help the next groups coming in, if I just pray at the time when it's time for me to go away from this. Right. And I didn't know that it meant this much to me until I came back in 2021, that I want to leave this thing when it's time for me to go out in a much better condition than when I found it.
Same.
And, doing this kind of informational, really at this point, it's kind of we're just surging out stuff that hasn't really been talked about in the way we're talking about it. I know it's a lot, right? But now there'll be an archive of all this information that people can go back and touch. As the game changes, hopefully it becomes irrelevant, right? Because people are going to get so much, further along than this, right, that when we're gone, they're going to be like, oh my God, look at this relic. These guys are talking about these silly codes and,
now we use,
I know in the future, we're going to have little earphones that are in the thing, it'll be much easier.
In the future, they're going to be using telepathy. They're just going to be,
right. They think it. They're
going to think
it. It'll be some sort of buzzer on each shoulder. And then
what's funny is What's funny is that's actually already happening at the highest levels. There's been so many points where like I could see in Archie's body language what he wants to do, and I'm literally, I'm like, yeah, Archie, yeah, and then boom, it gets done, and I'm following up the right way. It's like, I know what he wants to do. I see what he's thinking, or same thing with Chris or Ryan, whoever, and that actually is when your team has gotten to a really great level of chemistry. Right. And you understand each other. Yeah, that it really is. That's the nonverbals that you can pick up through communication as well. Communication we think of just as something you speak, but there's a lot of nonverbals that happen out there with your teammates. And I could see like, oh God, someone's in the 50 Dorito. I didn't even know, but I could tell how Ryan's playing this thing, shifted totally. So
body language is a lot.
Yeah. Certainly.
I used to have a guy I played with growing up that we played together for like 6 seasons. We rarely had to talk about setting something up. Like I could just see him take a certain posture and I knew, right? Yeah. And so I would set up to go do what I needed to do off of him or to help him.
Absolutely.
He didn't have to say anything to me.
Yeah.
I could just be shooting, look over and I see Chris take this certain posture and I was like, here we go.
We're
going to go win the game on this side. Let's go. So yeah, it's so neat how those intricacies as groups stay together for a while start to occur.
Yes.
Right.
They start manifesting themselves really special. And you start seeing them. Yeah. It's cool.
Marcello, thanks again, man. We appreciate you coming on, and definitely before a couple of like maybe after the combine, I'll have to look at the schedule, but we definitely want to help share more information about the combine. Cause I do think there is a way that we can push that out a little bit better. Cool. You mentioned earlier, like a lot of people don't know about the combine.
Yeah,
let's fix that. Let's fix it.
I agree.
Right.
I agree. People still like are just now finding PTG. I'm like, God, you're in tournament paintball, but we're not doing our job of getting this information out. We're not doing a good enough job of like making sure people know that we exist. The same thing with the combine. If you're in paintball, you should know that the combine exists. You should know that these shows exist. You should, it should be no doubt. So.
Especially like if you were a player, 15, 20 years ago, and you're coming back into the game, you have kids. If you have a son who's 12, 13 years old who wants to get in, or a daughter who wants to get into this thing, what a great way to start. Like they don't have to go through the process that we went through, starting with bad habits and then getting those worked out by coaches. You can start the right way.
Totally. Yeah.
Well, thanks again, man. We really appreciate you. Have a wonderful Christmas. Are you traveling?
Gosh, yes, actually. December is like my time where I stay home and I'm usually just with the family, and I don't want to get on a plane. I don't want to see anything, but I have to take a trip. I need to spend $500 more on Delta to meet status for next year. They made it incredibly hard. So my girlfriend and I's anniversary is Monday, so we're gonna take a one-night trip Sunday. We don't know where yet, either Seattle or San Francisco or something, just to meet the status, which is crazy. But that's it. And then January we're firing right back up. January is I'm again booked pretty much every weekend. I'll be going to Vegas a few weekends. I'll be going out to Florida to work with the Wrecking Crew guys, and then the first weekend in February is the Combine. Then back to Vegas for practice, and then we're getting ready for the NXLs. And so what's really cool is that's another thing too with these practices with the Misfits and Wrecking Crew is I get to bring my gear and I do drills with them. On the day that's just us. So it's kept me incredibly sharp. It's kept me really on top of my game. I attribute a lot of my success to them as well. What's crazy is I've told these kids, I see these kids play day in and day out, and we have such dynamic young players. Like this kid, Ben, someone I've worked with for probably 7 years now, Colton, they do things that inspires me. I'm like, that was such a sick move. I'm like truly impressed by it, and it inspires me. I'm like, okay, I got to, I'm going to implement that into my game. Or they even bring new little tricks to fundamentals, which is interesting that I'm like, oh, let me try this. No, that doesn't work. And let me try that. Oh, this kind of works, So actually coaching is like, I don't look at it as time being taken away from training. To me, I'm like, I'm getting better on these weekends. I'm bringing my equipment. I'm like doing drills with you guys. And my mind is like really sharp on all this stuff. So I'm really looking forward to it. Looking forward to the 2024 season. Vegas is going to be awesome. Having, the whole award ceremony that they're doing and the summit there is going to be cool. really excited for everything that the NXL Major League Paintball is doing, and you guys as well. So can't wait.
Well, you actually just kind of segued into one of the last topics I got to bring up, which is on Monday of the summit. Is now going to be open to the public, and there's going to be roundtable discussions with the NXL, Major League Paintball. There'll be small classroom settings for coaches, team building, potential field ownership. So Monday now of the summit is going to be open to everyone.
Awesome.
So
right? Sick. What a great opportunity.
If you haven't booked your flight, make sure that you stick around through Monday and come check it out. I think it's going to be really neat. And it's a cool way to, I think you would agree with me on this. And we kind of brought this up with Joey. The league is in such a neat place right now where I really feel like the pro teams have a fantastic relationship with management, right? Like
absolutely.
Tom is incredibly excessive. He's working really hard to try to push this thing in the right direction. And I don't know in our history if it's ever been like this, ever.
Yeah, it certainly feels that way. Yeah. It feels like Tom is, you could pick up the phone and call him and he'll listen. And I know he's getting pulled in a ton of different directions, but like he's willing to try stuff. He's constantly doing things to get our brand and our sport in front of eyes that matter. So I'm a huge fan of how everything's being run right now. Go Sports is doing a phenomenal job. World Cup was tremendous with the telestrator and all the stuff they were doing. My goodness, if they could stay in that direction, like hell yeah. It's an exciting time for paintball. I know pros have been saying that for a long time. It's always feels like we're like almost there, but it really feels like we're almost there. It feels like we're really close to some sort of breakthrough or some sort of recognition from, some sort of big company. I don't know what that is yet, but it definitely feels like things are in the right direction. Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of that is because of Tom and also like you guys for this show and all of the other podcast platforms and shows and the media, all of the videographers and photographers that have hundreds of thousands of followers and are getting all these eyes on their content. They're massive for the sport, So really it's the collective that has done a great job of getting paintball on the forefront. So props to everybody. Keep it up. If sports number one platform in the thing, and they look at the most recent video and there's 2 comments on it, right? That's not appealing to sponsors. So let's show out in the comment section. Let's show out in the likes, the subscriptions, and build this thing from within because we have enough people. We really do. We just have to actually take action.
This guy's literally like, this is my entire clothes, what he's doing right now. It's fantastic. I don't have to say any of this.
I was actually writing it down as he talked because I'm like, he just covered that. He just covered.
Yeah, go look at the email closed. It's literally right there.
That's funny. I got you guys.
Yeah, dude, you're killing it, right? Like for me, that's like the be responsible thing. Let's be
but he has been doing it longer than us too.
Yeah, be responsible for what your part is, right?
Yeah, totally.
Be responsible.
Totally.
So, and your part is as simple as sharing posts, liking things, passing information if possible. Like again, even just clicking a like button.
It's the free way to support what's going on, so come on.
Yeah,
guys.
we know paintball players are cheap.
Let's
and
go.
listen, you can't get much cheaper than free. So
yeah, totally.
Well, buddy, thank you again. Have a Merry Christmas and congratulations on your anniversary.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely, guys. Appreciate it.
See you, buddy.
Guys. See you soon.
Woo! Wow. What are we at? 2 hours and 23 minutes?
Yeah, by far the longest, but honestly, from my perspective, full of the most real content. It was great.
I think it was. We covered so many different topics that are, impactful to other coaches and players. And so, I mean, each show, just everyone we talk to, it just gets better and better. And Marcello was I'm really glad we were able to get that interview because my goodness, that man, Got a lot up here.
Anthony too, but we got to send him a laptop when we get him back on the show. We'll send him a laptop and have it all set up for him. That way he just has to plug it in. And Anthony was
I really am excited about
for
the Team USA stuff too. Oh man, I honestly, just between you and I, I used to have dreams of coaching a USA team in Europe and winning the championship and running with Old Glory in my hand, and no joke.
Well, man, hopefully it works out that we can get over there this year and with the coaches clinic and make that happen. Right.
No, I'm hoping.
All right. Well, one other quick piece of housekeeping. If you want to support the show, you like what we're doing here and you want to help, Mike and I don't get paid to do this. So if you want to go get you one of these, this is the back of the tech tee. And you can jump onto Maxed Sportswear Collections. You don't have to type that in. Just go to Max Sportswear, go to Collections. You can click on the Coaches Show. If you get one of these, Mike and I get enough money to buy a Snickers. So that would be really cool if you want to help support the show.
I was going to say a coffee, like a black coffee.
Yes.
McDonald's black coffee.
Yeah. And there's also a hoodie if you want to do that. We have some other little products. Yeah, we have some other little products that are coming. So if you're looking for some way to help with the show, that would be fantastic. You don't have to do those things. You can just do everything Marcello mentioned. Like it, share it, make sure you subscribe to Major League Paintball, and please share Major League Paintball's YouTube. When people are looking at whether or not they want to, when I say people, I'm talking about sponsors, want to be a part of what we're doing with Major League Paintball, they're going to come and look at this and they want to see participation. They want to see viewers. So really important we continue to build that.
Absolutely.
Who we got next week?
I think we have, is it Shane Pastana? Oh my goodness. The legend himself. Always a good time, right? And we spoke about him a little bit tonight. Marcello gave him some love out there. He's the consummate motivator. So I'm looking forward to have Shane Pastana of Team Ironman, Los Angeles Ironman, the Shield, going to be on the show.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear about what kind of changes they're making for 2024. And yeah, it's going to be exciting. Let's see if they can get the Shield back on track.
That's right. Add some shine.
Well, thank you guys so much. Please, for New Year's Eve, be safe, make good choices.
Right.
Uber is significantly, I'm an insurance agent. Uber is significantly cheaper than what your insurance rates will be if you get a DUI.
Or worse.
Absolutely. God bless you guys. Thanks for watching.
God bless. Bye-bye.
That is discipline. Selfish.
No joke. We're legitimate.
Let's fucking do this. Then do it. Do it 100% because I'm trying to.
We recognize that we are limitless.
You got to be a champion, become a champion, right? Winning is a habit because we create habits that lead to good execution and success.